Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
Welcome in the first morning of March the 1st. It feels like just yesterday we were kicking off 2022, and guess what? You've made it through 2 months.
Mardi Gras.
When does that officially? I've never done, I've been to New Orleans, but I'm really just completely unfamiliar with the whole Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras, everything that takes place in New Orleans. Like
It doesn't have to be New Orleans.
But isn't that's kind of, I don't say that's
it's more a Catholic thing.
But isn't that just when you talk the party and the...
Yeah, but I'm mostly just, even when we wouldn't go to New Orleans, Fat Tuesday is still a big day for all the Catholics because it's our last day to just feast. Then tomorrow's Ash Wednesday. You're supposed to fast on Ash Wednesday, and then usually you give up your vices for Lent.
Yeah, okay.
So tonight I'll get some fast food for dinner, and then that'll be it. Be no more fast food for the next 40 days.
That's what you're giving up? Yep. That's what you're going to... Okay, all
right.
Well,
I'm just going to try and not buy food. That's going to be the
seems
goal.
Seems like a risky idea to not buy food. You might want to,
I'm not going to buy prepared food. I'm not going to go to restaurants. I'm going to try and make every meal.
Okay.
Every meal I eat for the next 40 days is going to be made by me.
Yeah, you might want to be a little bit more clear on that because not buying food would seem like a very difficult next few months for you, or next 40 days. But
I could probably live for a while with just what's in my freezer that I just haven't touched for months.
There you go. Let's save.
I think I have a bag of frozen chicken in my freezer that I haven't touched since I moved in like over a year ago.
I'm sure it's not freezer burn at all.
You can still eat it though, right?
If it's been frozen, it might not be very tasty. Again, the freezer burn I think can get to it a little bit, where it gets iced over pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely iced over. Yeah.
What breakdown? What exactly? Mardi Gras though. Have you ever been to New Orleans for the parades and because all the little, what do they call them? Is it provinces? There's the little kind of communities have their own parishes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. They have their own particular parades and everything.
Kind of. I mean, there's an overall like parade schedule. Different communities will have their own parades, but more or less they're all crews. That's kind of like their social clubs is the crews, KREWE. So the more prestigious the crew, kind of the later on into the Mardi Gras festivities you go. So their parades probably started about a month ago. But they just get bigger and bigger. And then this weekend was all the super crews. So the crew of Bacchus, the crew of Endymion, those are the two biggest ones. And then like the social elites get to go on Mardi Gras Day today. That's Rex. The parade is Rex. So the king of Rex is a guy that puts on like a costume and is like Mr.
Mardi Gras.
Yeah, Mr. Mardi Gras basically.
Okay.
But there's like Bacchus also has a lot of them will have like celebrities. So the king of Bacchus, which is always on Saturday before Mardi Gras, is always a celebrity. I think I've seen when I've been there, the first one I remember when I was a kid was Andy Garcia was the king of Bacchus one year.
Okay.
You know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then who was it when I was there in college? It was Anthony Mackie.
I don't know who that is.
Anthony, yeah, you would recognize him. He's probably most known for being the Falcon superhero. If you looked him up, you'd recognize him. He's been in a bunch of movies. He's a big movie star right now. But he was the king of Bacchus when I was there. And I remember you know who Rob Dyrdek is?
No, don't know.
Skateboarder. That. He had it was Rob and Big. It was Rob Dyrdek and Big Black. It was the MTV show for a while. It was big when I was in like middle school, but they had a float with the world's largest skateboard was their float. It was pretty cool.
Okay. All right.
So it's a lot of fun. The parades have been in full effect for the last couple weeks, month, and kids have been off school for the last couple weeks as well.
Been out of school?
Yeah, in New Orleans they get Mardi Gras break.
Okay.
It's like more substantial than Christmas break.
That is really quite something. Yeah, I've never completely understood it. I've never it's always sounded like a great time. It's always sounded like
every school has a marching band. Like everyone there can play music. And all of the school marching bands are incredible. Like every kid in New Orleans can play some sort of instrument.
So today is officially Mardi Gras? Is that
Mardi Gras directly translate. It's Fat Tuesday in French.
Okay. All right.
Lunes Martes, that's Spanish, and then the same chorus. Mardi is French for Tuesday.
Kids, I hope you learned something this morning. We don't just talk sports on this program. We bring you intellectual information, and that was quite the intellectual conversation there as we explained Mardi Gras and Fat Tuesday and everything that happened. So if you're up and you're at 'em and you're heading to school this morning, guess what? You've already learned something here listening to the early game, and that is something that your parents would probably look at you and say, we never thought would happen. But
and you got to tell your parents that since it's Fat Tuesday, you need donuts this morning.
Donuts.
That's what you do. I have a king cake in my microwave.
Now that's got the little baby in it or something. Not a real baby for those kids listening out there, like a little plastic baby.
But
it's like a surprise or something, or the person gets
people are getting soft because the ones, I just bought one at Publix. It's not very good. The ones that you just buy in the grocery store aren't very good. But the baby is just in a little bag separate from the cake. Because now they're starting to do that because it's a choking hazard. Obviously,
well, that
but
stands
also,
to reason.
You should know if you're eating a king cake. There's just put a warning. There's a baby, plastic baby in here, and we should be
understandable.
Should be smart enough to not eat and swallow the baby. But I don't know what you're supposed to do. Take it out and then just stuff it into somebody's slice of cake.
I think that's probably seems fair. Yeah.
I don't
make
like
them a little.
Need to put the baby back in the cake.
Get them kind of alert. Yet, lot we have taught you this morning so far, and we are only about 9 minutes into the program. Scott says he's fat every day. He doesn't need a Tuesday just to have Fat Tuesday. So, we're off and running.
No meat on Fridays is the big thing for the next couple weeks.
Okay, I don't observe that. 803-404-6100, how you can be a part of the program this morning. If you want to join us on the text line or on the Love Chevy phone lines, as always, you can run on over to the Buford Lending live stream. LeVar, DC, Anthony, Jerry, all up and Adam with us this morning as we get you going. We got a busy morning here ahead of us. Some South Carolina athletics tonight that you can gorge yourself on. South Carolina basketball, 7 o'clock tonight. They will host Missouri. It'll be senior night over at Colonial Life Arena, and hopefully a good turnout from the fan base. I understand where everybody kind of mentally is, but tonight an opportunity to say goodbye to several Gamecock basketball players as they will play maybe their final game. With the NIT, it's hard to say what could happen down the line if South Carolina can win this one, maybe win a game in the NCAA tournament. Who knows? The
SEC
NIT
tournament.
The SEC tournament, then maybe you get that opportunity to host a NIT game. And so we will see. I'll get into, there's a list of who exactly will be honored tonight. South Carolina, I guess, technically is still fighting for a position in the NCAA tournament. It would require a victory on the road at Auburn this coming Saturday. So, we'll talk more about that later in the week. But to break down a little bit of Gamecock basketball, we will have Aaron Lucas join us this morning, former point guard and current coach over at Lower Richland. He will hop on the program about 7:15 this morning to talk about what he has seen and also reminisce. As I texted with him the other day, his line was his senior night was about 20 years ago. He's not sure what he necessarily remembers from that, but he'll try and dig up a couple. So we'll catch up with him. And then at 8:05 this morning, John Whittle will join us as the Gamecock baseball team tonight will head up to Charlotte. They will get up there and have a neutral site game tonight in Charlotte, but it'll be against Appalachian State. You can catch that on 1320 here on our radio station, but you can catch it also on the SEC Network Plus. The Gamecocks 6-1. It'll be the final contest before Clemson rolls into town on this coming Friday for the 3-game series. So in a way, a big game for the baseball team because you don't want to lose going into the Clemson game. You want to continue the momentum that's been built. You want to be ready to go. CJ Weems, the senior right-hand pitcher, will be the likely starter for the Gamecocks tonight. He will be opposed by Jason Kornatzer, I believe is how you say it. I was not going to get that right there for a minute. Also a senior right-hander for Appalachian State. So we will catch up with John Whittle later on this morning, 8:05, to get his take on the George Washington series, as well as look ahead to tonight and the Clemson series. So a lot to get to in between now and then. Patrick Pratt is fired up. He's ready for NFL Combine stuff. When do we really get that going here this week?
Thursday will be the QBs, wide receivers, and tight ends.
And what are we looking for there?
Well, one of the bummers yesterday was that Derek Stingley was one of the people that announced that he wasn't gonna do anything at the combine. He's still healing from a foot injury, so that's kind of a bummer because he's maybe the top corner in the draft. And then Evan Neal, the freak show from Alabama that was expected to put on an all-time combine for performance, 6'7", 6'8", 360 pounds, and was going to run really well, was going to jump really well, and just blow people's minds with his numbers, decided he's not going to work out. So that was a huge bummer because that was going to be a legendary combine performance. But I guess that's one of the negatives of playing for Alabama is that you play in the national championship every year. So he had a month where he was practicing and not preparing for the combine like everybody else. So he doesn't feel like he's going to put his best performance out there, I guess. So we're not going to see Evan Neal perform. So that's a bit of a bummer. But I mean, wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end day. Quarterbacks, you're going to get absolutely nothing from the combine. It's not even worth paying attention to. But the wide receivers is where we're going to get some good times. I don't know who's necessarily expected to put up the biggest time, but I'll be interested to see a lot of the receiver numbers. It's a good receiving class overall. Not as good as the last couple of years. There's 5 really good receivers that'll probably be first rounders, and then the tight ends is a deep group, but there's no one that is going to be deserving of a top 50 pick. So there's about a dozen guys that'll probably get taken in the 3rd to 4th rounds that are going to be probably just plug and play guys. But receiver wise, I would say 5 guys and then a large gap for the rest of the group.
Okay, we'll get more into that as we go through the morning there. Let Patrick start to analyze and break down the combine, look at what the Carolina Panthers may be thinking about as we get closer to the NFL draft. We'll also talk a little bit of NBA just this morning, but not necessarily from an entire NBA standpoint, but the performance last night by South Carolina's own Ja Morant, who goes for 52 points last night in a
following. It was the most hyped draft lottery in a long time. People tuned in and the ratings were big for the draft lottery just because it's the Zion Williams sweepstakes, and the Pelicans were throwing things in the war room, so excited, and they sold 1 million season tickets. I think it was the most season tickets they'd sold in years as the day that they won the lottery and they knew they were going to take Zion. And Ja is just so good. If you said you can have a player for 10 years on your team right now, there aren't 10 players you're picking over Ja Morant. He is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane.
I think they're 3rd in the West. The West is absolutely loaded, and he is the Grizzlies.
It's interesting. You talk about guys that have come out of the state of South Carolina and what they've gone on to do, and Ja Morant is quickly developing into one of the greatest all time to come out of the state and go professional and do what he can do. But we'll talk a little bit about that this morning. Again, get into that basketball game, South Carolina and Missouri tonight over at Colonial Life Arena. See what the Gamecocks can do and try and bounce back from the loss over the weekend to Alabama. 90-71 is the loss that they took, but they get a chance to redeem themselves tonight at Colonial Life Arena against Missouri. It'll be senior night, and we'll see. There's a list of players that are going to be honored. I'll get that up for you. And
I got the list right here.
Okay.
You want it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Keyshawn Bryant, Jermaine Cousinard, Mike Green, Brandon Martin, James Reese, Eric Stevenson, and A.J. Wilson.
Not all of those guys are actually out of eligibility, but we'll talk a little bit about that.
This is after the game?
Are they doing it after the game?
It says they will honor these guys after the conclusion of the game.
Okay.
So isn't it always before the game?
Normally it is.
Never seen a senior night that goes.
Yeah, because what happens if the game doesn't go well?
Right, if they lose.
It's not a very fun
They'll be very confident they're going to win that game.
South Carolina tonight is a 6.5 to 7 point favorite. Caesar Sportsbook with them is a 6.5 point favorite. DraftKings and FanDuel both have them listed as a 7 point favorite for tonight's game. So the Gamecocks, a decent little favorite. Look, the bottom line, Missouri, we talked about this, second worst record in the SEC. This is a game that if you have any postseason aspirations, NIT included, you have to win tonight to keep those going. And then we'll see what happens against Auburn. But right now it seems like the NIT is the direction that we're looking at. And to get into that NIT, you need to win tonight's game. So we'll talk more about that, get your thoughts and opinions, again, a little bit of baseball discussion this morning, as we will, again, cover a lot of different things here in regards to that. And we'll get into a little bit of NFL, again, with the draft combine, and get Patrick's take. The Carolina Panthers, again, a lot of different things. We'll get back into
also the Kyler Murray thing that happened right as our show was ending yesterday.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to say, I want to get your take on the Carolina Panthers, but I'm kind of interested to get your take on Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals and what you exactly do with Kyler Murray at this point. Yeah. We'll get into it. If you haven't seen that story, we'll cover that. So there's a lot of.
If you haven't seen the statement, you probably can't read it. You see the statement that he put out?
It was long.
It was long with tiny words. And
yeah.
I just double zoom in to read it. It was ridiculous.
There's something for Bill.
And there's typos.
I didn't. Yeah, you gotta. There was a lot of people that were very worried about your about how mean I was to you yesterday. No, it was when I left here. There was a couple people that was like, Jen's a really super sweet person. She probably didn't deserve that.
Okay.
I was like, well, she doesn't ever win. So I mean,
here we go.
I was just celebrating with her
in the most backhanded way possible.
Yeah, but.
No, there was one text. It was just when I left here, people, I had a couple people that were just like, you could have been nicer to her. She never wins. Let her enjoy the moment. Let her celebrate a little bit. I was like, good. That's a good point. That's a good point. I should have brought her a king cake.
No, well, it's not like they're celebrating when you win.
Yeah, nobody celebrates when I win.
That's because he celebrates for 12 people.
Yeah.
When he wins.
Hey, if you can't celebrate for yourself, why celebrate at all? 803-404 6100. How you can be a part of the program this morning. Anonymous texter says that Ja's dunk was ridiculous. I know one dude who swore Ja was the best player in the draft.
That was a funny text to me.
I don't know who the one person was.
I know a guy that thought Ja was the best player in the draft. It's just a funny text to me.
Okay.
There's just always. That's just such a hindsight thing. Yeah, I thought he was better than Zion the whole time.
Richard weighing in, he says, and he says, you guys might have talked about the story, but you see what the night Ja Morant had? No, he had just not made it to it at 6:14.
Did you see the dunk over Jakob Poeltl?
I have not seen him. No, but I've got a feeling the TVs are on in front of us. I've got a feeling I will see it this morning at some point. So we will.
That's a crazy story too. I don't know really what there is to talk about, but Art Briles hired and fired from Grambling.
Well, he just said he didn't get he didn't get fired. He
basically shamed out of the job.
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to take it. He did an interview the other day and said he wasn't.
And Hugh Jackson made a fool of himself as well, or was made a fool of by an ESPN reporter too. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that, but we can bring that up.
We'll get into all that. This one, again, a lot to cover here. Again, coming up at 7:15, Aaron Lucas will join us to talk some South Carolina basketball and senior night over at Colonial Life Arena. 8:05 this morning, John Whittle to talk a little bit about the Gamecock series victory over George Washington, as well as tonight's game against Appalachian State, and of course, look ahead to this coming weekend's game series against Clemson. So we got a lot to get into. If you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100. That's how you can join us. Join us, whether it's on the Love Chevy phone lines or on the text line. And again, always on the Buford Lending live stream. Just go to youtube.com, search 1075 The Game, click and join, and be happy to have you on there. You're listening to the early game on 1075 The Game.
By Indeed.com. Hiring heating up? Indeed's hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all in one place. Sponsor a post and instantly receive a short list of quality candidates on Indeed, whose resumes match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Forget about that cleaning tip you saw on Facebook and call the experts at Zero Res right now. Mention me, Bill Gunner, at 1075 The Game, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $109 plus a free hallway. Book online at ZeroResColumbia.com.
Uneven sidewalks, pool decks, or patios? Canty can repair them for just a fraction of the cost of replacement. Call Canty Foundation Specialists today for your free estimate.
Canty can fix it.
Uneven concrete can be a dangerous tripping hazard leading to injury. Call the experts at Canty to permanently repair your sinking or cracked concrete. Call 753-1495 or visit CantyCanFixIt.com. Canty can fix it.
Susan, I'm sorry I'm late.
March. It is March the 1st, and that definitely means it's time to make sure that pool is nice, clean, and ready to be used. Oh, yeah, sure. Maybe you've got a cold day ahead of us. I think the high is only supposed to be in the 60s, but those days where you come home and it's hot and you're ready to relax and jump in the pool, or the kids are ready to make use of the pool, they're not far away. But if your pool has murky, it's murky. If it's got pollen in it, that's going to happen in a few weeks. If it's a little nasty, now's the time to call Tracy Corley and Corley Pool Solutions. 803-445-8109. Corley Pool Solutions can handle the maintenance of your pool with a weekly visit for flat rate pricing, including all the chemicals. And I'm telling you what, those pools, each pool is a little different than the other. So if you think just going to the pool store, purchasing chemicals, talking to the person behind the counter is going to work, you're wrong. You need someone who actually comes and looks at your pool, who is there, who understands maybe what the issue is and knows how to make the immediate fix to have that pool looking beautiful, to have it sparkling, to have it ready to jump in the coming weeks. So call Corley Pool Solutions today, 803-445-8109. Get your weekly maintenance schedule lined up. Again, Corley Pool Solutions does it for a flat rate pricing. It is actually more affordable to use Corley Pool Solutions than it is to try and do it yourself and go visit the pool store, having to maybe go extra times to get the right chemicals. Use the man himself with 20 years of experience in the industry, Tracy Corley, the best in the business. 803-445-8109. Call Corley Pool Solutions today. $6:30 on March the 1st. We are officially into March Madness. One of the things we've been talking about today, South Carolina basketball tonight, trying to make some postseason plans, and it will require a victory tonight. If they want to probably get into the NIT, it's going to require a victory tonight over the Missouri Tigers. We talked about that. They'll play tonight, 7 o'clock, Colonial Life Arena. You can hear that right here on 107.5. The game coming up in about 45 minutes. Aaron Lucas, former Gamecock point guard and current Lower Richland head coach, will join us to discuss that a little bit. Also, this morning, we've been discussing just a little bit of baseball. South Carolina traveling to Charlotte tonight. They will host Appalachian State. 6 p.m. is game time for that. You can catch that on the SEC Network Plus, so you'll have to stream that. The Gamecocks look to stay hot. Andrew Eister, who, again, has continued his hot start to the 2022 season, has had 3 multi-hit games this year, including a 4-for-5 performance on Friday night versus George Washington, and Eister leading the team in home runs right now with 3 and 13 RBIs. Also leads the team. He's 17 of 34 batting this year. That's pretty solid for those of you wondering, Patrick. He is doing well out of the gate here, Andrew Eister. So we've talked a little bit about that. Also, some things that we got into this morning, or one thing we did not get into quickly, Major League Baseball lockout, Patrick. And yesterday they had a deadline. They were going to cancel games. They were going to just ruin MLB opening day, but they decided, no, we're not going to do that. We'll extend the deadline. We'll go a little bit further and see if we can hammer out a deal. I feel like they're going to get a deal done, actually, and start on time.
Well, they're just going to keep push. If they don't get it done today, they'll just push it back. It's just such empty threats when they say, all right, we don't agree by Monday, we're canceling games. And then they met for apparently 15 hours yesterday and said, okay, now it's Tuesday at 5 p.m., but this time we mean it. If we don't get a deal done by Tuesday at 5 p.m., we're canceling games. If they don't get something done tonight, they'll just say it's Wednesday at lunchtime, and they'll just push it back and back and back. And I think the players are adamant that they can just make up these games with doubleheaders, and the owner's like, no, we're not doing that. It's going to get figured out. That's why I really haven't even cared about it, because one, I don't care what the result is. I'm not going to be hurt if they cancel games. And two, I just believe that they're going to get something done at the end of the day. The owners will just say, we don't care. And the players will probably bend and then agree to a deal that is better than what they had before, but not exactly what they wanted. And we'll get baseball.
The new collective bargaining agreement that would save regular season games from being canceled has been moved to 5 p.m. today. What I kind of want to know, what do you do for 16 hours in a meeting? Like, I mean, you're not obviously sitting around a table for 16 hours. Is it 1 hour is taken to decide what you want to order for lunch? And then clearly you stuck around for dinner. So is there another hour where everybody decides what they want to do for dinner?
Where are they meeting?
Where are they meeting?
It's probably some like lavish resort or something. Or is it just the MLB offices, which are, I don't even know where. Are they in Cooperstown?
I saw where they were meeting the other day, and it doesn't say it in the most recent article that I'm looking at here. I thought it was somewhere in Florida, but I could be wrong. I saw it the other day, and it wasn't a part of the article that I really kept up with. Why do you think some of the meetings occur? They head out for a pool session? where they all gather around the pool and have it like 4 o'clock. It's like, well, let's just
That's what I was
move out
imagining.
for drinks and have drinks out here and continue meeting and then come back at 8 and we'll order, I don't know, from the,
Have some surf and turf.
I'm just imagining there's some big ballroom where there's a big conference table set out, and they bring up one thing, and then
They take an hour to think about
exactly
it.
they say, all right, let's go break out and meet together, and we'll talk about it. And they all go out by the pool, order cocktails and food, and then hang out for a couple hours and say, nah, I don't like it. Let's go back and tell them we don't like it. And then they go back, and 4 hours have passed, and all they've done is just say no to one proposal, and here we go again. I bet it's just a complete cluster.
I don't know. A lot of you out there listening, you're in the business world. What's the longest meeting you've ever been in? And what in the world did you do for that amount of time? Like, my attention span is about the length of this show, 3 hours. And even then, if you've listened for the last few years, you know that I can tend to just zone out at some point within these 3 hours. Like, if you're meeting for even I realize there's no way they all met for 16 consecutive hours. They just sat there and stared at each other. I'm hoping that didn't
Roger
happen.
Dean. Oh, it's Jupiter, Florida.
Yeah, okay. I thought
They're
they were in
meeting
Florida.
at the they're meeting at a Roger Dean Stadium, which is I have no idea what that is.
So they're meeting at a baseball stadium, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So
It's the hosts the Nationals and Astros in spring training.
Okay.
Look at that. I didn't even know where the Nationals did spring training.
How about that? I don't know what you do for 16 hours. And again, I'm assuming that 1 hour is solely dedicated to what they're going to order for lunch, and 1 hour is solely dedicated to what they're going to order for dinner. And then there's probably another hour that's considered like a meet and greet reception. I have zero clue what you do and how you don't get something worked out when you meet for 16 consecutive hours. That would feel like a massive failure. And
I could pretty much figure anything out with anyone if I had 16 hours to just talk about it.
if I have to talk to you for 16 hours, I'm
That's
going
a
to agree to
problem.
whatever
Yeah.
you want. You pretty much, if you force me to talk to you for more than 4 or 5 consecutive
It's just
hours,
whatever gets me out of this
you're
room.
pretty much going to get whatever you want out of me at that point. So we'll see what happens 5 o'clock today for Major League Baseball. I'm kind of with you, Patrick. I think even if they don't get something worked out, that they'll just say, all right, well, we're going to give it until Wednesday at 5 o'clock, and then it'll be Thursday at 3 o'clock, and who knows, they'll get something hammered out. So 803-404-6100. The other news yesterday, and it's kind of a weird story to continue to follow, is Art Briles trying to get back into coaching and was going to take the offensive coordinator job at Grambling. He actually did an interview, I guess, over the weekend, but has told Grambling on Monday, told him yesterday that he'll no longer be the school's offensive coordinator, saying in a statement obtained by ESPN that he did not want to be a distraction to the football team. Briles' decision comes after first-year head coach Hugh Jackson, who you want to get into in just a second, hired him. Hugh Jackson was the former coach of the Cleveland Browns and, of course, went 1-31, and then I forget that whole story, by the way, with Brian Flores and Hugh Jackson. Everything is completely kind of just vanished.
Well, Hugh Jackson ruined it because Hugh Jackson tried to join in and was like, oh, yeah, they paid me to lose too. And then he retracted and was like, oh, no, actually, I just did that on my own. They actually didn't want me to lose. I was the head coach after they had already tanked and gotten Baker Mayfield. So I was supposed to win. I just stunk and embarrassed them on Hard Knocks. So he just got completely owned on Twitter yesterday. It's funny, but it's not funny. But the fact that Hugh Jackson just continues to make a fool of himself and get embarrassed on a national platform is kind of funny. He put out the Hugh Jackson Foundation is supposedly on behalf of human trafficking, fighting human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
So he put out a statement from the Hugh Jackson Foundation defending why Art Briles is a good hire. And the gist of it is this recent hire of Coach Briles is a testament to the importance of these key factors: forgiveness, redemption, and enlightenment. As we move forward together with Coach Briles, we ask that people keep in mind that no matter your views on this topic, remember that people can and often do become re-traumatized and re-victimized by statements which may or may not be accurate. We'll continue to support Coach Briles and all victims of assault, violence, social and racial injustices, and we will continue to provide equal opportunity for healing for everyone. So I don't know why the statement came out from the Hugh Jackson Foundation, and then a couple hours later, Dan Murphy from ESPN did some digging on the financials and tweeted that the Hugh Jackson Foundation collected $158,000 in 2019 with their most recent tax info available. It paid out $115,000 of that $158,000 to its sole paid employee and spent another $15,000 on travel. It looks like they gave out roughly $4,000 in grants. So collected $158,000, actually donated $4,000. And then the Hugh Jackson Foundation responded to that tweet saying, what you failed to report is where that money came from. Hugh Jackson was the largest donor and personally donated over 75% of the funds. I personally donated from my salary back into the organization as well. Our records are clean. So everyone read that and was like, wait, isn't that tax fraud? Did Hugh Jackson just defend Art Briles, then get called out, and then just admit the tax fraud? Is that what just happened? And I don't know enough about what constitutes tax fraud, but essentially the day started with Hugh Jackson hiring Art Briles, getting exposed for his foundation actually not donating any money to the charity that they're supposed to represent, potentially admitting to tax fraud, and then Art Briles stepping down anyway. So it was a banner day for Hugh Jackson.
Big, yeah.
One of the crazy just Twitter stories that you're going to see. So I'm fascinated to see where this goes. He can't do anything right.
No, and former Grambling standout. I think this is where it's getting bad. Former Grambling standout and quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback Doug Williams, also just absolutely criticizing both Hugh Jackson and the Grambling decision there to hire Art Briles, basically saying he could not support the decision and that former coach Eddie Robinson would be turning over in his grave right now. So Art Briles, I was shocked that he got another opportunity even at Grambling, but it doesn't appear that he will ever be involved in collegiate sports ever again after what occurred at Baylor under his watch. And so certainly then you have Hugh Jackson, who somehow has continued to just embarrass himself at every turn.
This would be hysterical if this whole thing ended in Hugh Jackson being investigated by the IRS for tax fraud and having to step down from Grambling because he committed tax fraud, funneling money through a foundation.
Not 100% sure he would find that hysterical, but
I don't think he would find it hysterical, but I mean, he did. He just botches everything.
803-404-6100. That's how you can join us this morning. Again, you can hop on the Buford Lending live stream if you want to be a part of the program. We'll get into that Kyler Murray story because Patrick's talking about what Art Briles did, what Hugh Jackson did yesterday. Kyler Murray yesterday put out a statement. I think it was a statement. Maybe it was
put out a statement.
Okay, yeah. Well, I say or a book. I was going to say it might not have been a statement. It might have just been a full-on book.
It looked like when a professor tells you can have one cheat sheet of paper and you just write as small as you possibly can and try to write all of the formulas and answers down on one sheet of paper. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
I'll read you one line and we'll go to break here and we'll let Patrick discuss this because this line is what simply turned me off to Kyler Murray. And if I was an Arizona Cardinal, I can't say I would be very thrilled with this. At the very end, it says, actions speak much louder than words in this volatile business. And it says, it is now simply up to the Cardinals to decide if they prioritize their rapidly improving 24-year-old, already two-time Pro Bowl QB who led the organization from 3 wins before his arrival to 11 wins in their first playoff appearance in 5 years, or rather, if they choose to financially prioritize committing to other areas and continuing to merely talk about addressing Kyler's long-term future as their QB. That right there kind of got to me a little bit yesterday. We'll talk about that and get into some NFL discussion and then back into some basketball discussion. Again, Aaron Lucas coming up at 7:15 this morning to talk Gamecock basketball. John Whittle joining us at 8:05 this morning to talk Gamecock baseball. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game. think it is 36 degrees when we woke up this morning. I believe it's getting up into the mid 60s here this afternoon. I also understand later this week it's going to be mid 80s, almost 90 degrees. There will also probably be a few more chilly days involved in the month of March. The point being is your heating and air unit is getting an absolute workout. One morning it's having to have the heat on, in the afternoon it's having the air conditioner on. Right now, you do not want that thing to go out. You need to call AAA Heating and Air. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Right now, they can come out to your house. $59 is all it'll cost to get your heating and air unit inspected. And if there is an issue, if something's wrong and you have to have it replaced, that can be kind of scary. It can cost a lot of money, but AAA Heating and Air, a family-run business that wants to take care of other families, is there to make sure you and your family will be okay. The first thing they do, if you have to replace your heating and air unit, is they offer you a $1,500 rebate to buy back your old unit. They want to help you out there. Then, for those who qualify, no money down, 0% financing on a brand new unit. So they're already working with you to make sure that this situation is affordable. And then the absolute best part, they stay with you for the long haul. They're in their 15-year parts and labor warranty to make sure that heating and air unit continues to work. So give AAA Heating and Air a call today. Find out how they run their family business and how they will treat you like a family member. 803-677-1500. That's Roy and Dana Finley. I'm telling you, the best in the business to work with. Give them a phone call today. 803-677-1500. That's AAA Heating and Air. Give them a call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 803-404-6100. How you can join myself, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen this morning here as we roll through hour number one. Coming up at 7:15, Aaron Lucas will join us, and we will talk about South Carolina basketball tonight against Missouri. We'll reminisce on his senior night about 20 years ago. Also get his thoughts on the season as a whole. So we've got that coming up 7:15 this morning. 8:05, John Whittle from thebigspur.com joins us to talk baseball. We were discussing this Kyler Murray situation. Dylan weighs in with a very thought-provoking text. Let me read this to you, Patrick, and get your take on it. He says, I understand Kyler wanting to get paid after year 3 with how much he runs. Running backs have to get paid by the 3rd year or their second contract won't be that great due to the risk of injury and loss of a step from hits or use. Perfect example, Christian McCaffrey. Is it good for the organization to pay him? No. But do I understand Kyler wanting to secure himself and ensure he gets paid in case of injury? Yes, I do. Real quick, my thoughts on that. Well, every player. I mean, if you got offensive and defensive linemen who collide with each other on each and every play, yeah, you're always trying to get paid in the NFL. And let's be honest, those are some of the worst contracts you can sign in professional sports because a lot of times it's not complete guaranteed money. I think the question here is, are you fracturing your relationship with the Arizona Cardinals by basically saying, hey, I'm the reason for success. Go ahead and pony up.
Well, and it's not super common for players to get an extension after their 3rd year because he's under team control for 2 more years. Only a handful of QBs have actually gotten that 3rd year extension. And Kyler's would be leaving money on the table if he wanted to get extended right now. I don't know why he doesn't just wait for the next couple groups of QBs. Maybe he waits for Aaron Rodgers to get $50 million a year. Maybe he waits for Lamar to get his big deal. He could be losing money by doing this. And yeah, I get wanting to get paid for the risk of injury because he does run and he's a smaller guy, but that position doesn't ever lose value. Dak Prescott negotiated his monster contract with a gruesomely broken ankle and got a tremendous deal. Got a better deal than Patrick Mahomes did without playing at all. Like his value, I guess, was shown by how poor they were without him. So I don't think that Kyler's really at risk of not getting a big contract. It's just I don't know. I don't know that the Cardinals are sold on him. I don't really know why they wouldn't be because as a player, I think I'm sold on him. But we've also seen these 3rd year extensions go horribly wrong. Jared Goff got extended after his 3rd year. Look where he's at. He's already been traded, and the Lions might release him and just eat $30 million of dead cap to get rid of him. He's already been traded and they gave a pick for the Lions to take on Jared Goff's contract. So that was not a good deal. Carson Wentz got extended after his 3rd year. He got hurt and then ended up getting traded. Now he's going to get traded or released again, even though I did just see a story that he's still working out with the Colts receivers, which is really awkward. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, do I get wanting to just have that $100 million contract in your back pocket done and not have to worry about it? Yeah, but the statement was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous thing to do.
Richard weighs in on the text line and says, heck no, do not pay him. Immaturity showing right now, and you do not need to invest that much money into someone that's supposed to be your leader and immature. And one thing about this, Steve Keim, the general manager for the Arizona Cardinals, has been public about the fact that he will not negotiate publicly with players. And this is one of the parts of an article that I was reading where it mentions Eric Burkhart, the agent for Kyler Murray, putting this out there publicly, basically telling the Arizona Cardinals, hey, you need to get this extension done. You're the team. You've got to create stability, and you need to give Kyler Murray this extension. That's pretty public when you put it out there. And when you've got a general manager who's basically saying, look, if you want to deal with me, you come and you deal with me in my office, not over social media. That's a bad way to create a partnership between you and your organization.
Kyler Murray's such a Gen Zer, though. That's just who he is. He apparently leaves the same time as everyone else, doesn't stay late, and then goes and streams on Twitch, streams video games on Twitch. Like, he is such a Gen Z kid, and the statement's just truly absurd. There's no reason to do this. I don't know how anyone reads that and says, yeah, Kyler's got a point. And you read the last paragraph, but the very beginning says Kyler wants to be direct with loyal Arizona Cardinals fans in the great community of the Valley and stating his 2 very important goals and objectives. 1, he absolutely wants to be your long-term QB. 2, he desperately wants to win the Super Bowl. And then it goes and just contradicts itself by basically saying, we want you to give Kyler all the money in the world and prove to us how badly you want him to be here. But also he wants to win the Super Bowl. So we want to make sure that you sign a bunch of other good players to be around him. So he wants his cake and eat it too. And you know what? It wasn't good enough for you trading for DeAndre Hopkins, trading picks for him and making him by far the highest paid receiver in the NFL. That wasn't helpful for you. Like it's a ridiculous thing to say. And I think I'd still want Kyler Murray because I think he's a very talented player, but the immaturity is pretty scary.
Hour 2 up next. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Crushed that one. Oh yeah, when we have Brian on, you got to ask him about this.
Oh, yeah. Bring it
This is a big fight. I actually might try and find a way to watch. No, I won't. I'll be at the lake. Never mind.
What does that stuff typically get? Is it streamed to the ESPN Network Plus, whatever?
Yeah, you got to buy it on pay-per-view, but I'm good at finding streams.
The coldest parts of the winter are.
What? Your sentence?
My one sentence.
Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description.
Go. So just run to 10. Quick 10-minute segment. The $24 million number? Yeah. I don't know. That's some sort of number. You can bring it up. Just do it now.
Hour 2 up next. Very talented player, but the immaturity is pretty scary.
$7 a.m. on a Tuesday, March the 1st. Welcome into the month of March. We are one day closer to the end of daylight savings time, right? Is it the beginning of? It's the end of daylight savings time, right? Like daylight savings time, I guess officially it begins in November and ends. You see what I'm saying with that? Or is we just say that? How do you phrase that, Jen? You and I have this conversation about this time every year. Is it the end of daylight savings time, or is it just?
That's actually a great question. Now I'm confused. Thanks. You did that for me.
I tend to have
Does
that
it
effect
begin
on
to-
people.
I thought it begins, but if you're saving daylight, I don't know.
It's still the same amount of daylight either way.
Oh no.
It's just whether it's in the morning or in the evening.
Mm-mm.
Why?
No, your days are shorter.
Your days are shorter. Yeah, there will be a day that I will drive
Yeah, but
up.
that's with the season. But the
It's-
actual hour moving just
The hour of daylight is
No, because
you have more
there's
daylight.
there'll be a day in June. I think it's around the 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, 24th.
About the time of that summer solstice or whatever it is.
that you'll drive up Gervais Street at 6 a.m. and it'll be light. It'll
Mhm.
be sunlight. It'll be coming out. It's
the
all-
longest day of the
I don't
year.
want to. Yeah, I don't want to say like, oh, it's a magical morning and I wake up excited to like be a part of it. But it is one of the weirdest things about doing this job is that there is one morning where you come
Or a
up
couple,
where you come up Gervais Street. I come up Gervais Street at like 5:45, and the sun is up. Like it's
Mhm.
right over there coming down, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is different. You come in here and it's completely light. Whereas opposed to December, you come in here at 6 a.m. And I understand what you're saying about the hour moving to and fro, but no, you come in here and it doesn't get light until 7 a.m.
Mhm.
and then it's dark at 6:30. Like, I mean, you're
Yep.
just your total hours there are totally different. But yeah,
Or it'll be more light at, a little bit before 6, and it'll stay light until close to 8 o'clock.
that really is. And people that I guess get up bright and early and have to be at work or go work out, go do the the F3 stuff or whatever, where you're getting up at 5 a.m. and you see it really is one of the oddest things. Just that if you ever really pay attention to it, getting up that early and then coming and like going and working out, and you realize, oh man, it's 5:50 a.m. and it's total sunlight, and then you go back home and it's like 7:30 that night and it's still sunlight, and it's just absolutely odd. But yeah, so I guess we come to the end of daylight savings time because now we go to full on daylight. Good luck with that. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in on that little question there as we roll through the morning. Coming up in about 10 minutes, Aaron Lucas will join us. We will not ask him about daylight savings time. We'll ask him about basketball tonight. South Carolina hosting Missouri over at Colonial Life Arena. 7 o'clock will be the tip top, and it'll be senior night. Patrick, you still got that list in front of you because a lot of people is actually going to. By the way, somebody weighs in and says Patrick is right. I don't care to go down at this moment that particular debate on the hours. Maybe we'll save that for later in the hour, but I don't agree with you or the anonymous texter who says you're right on the.
Well, people just get all excited because the sun stays up for later in the evening, but that's because mostly they wake up at 8 or 9 when the sun's already out, whereas we watch the sunrise every day.
It's true. We do watch the sunrise.
So we get the beginning of it no matter what.
That's true. We do.
We get to see the sunrise and set every day.
You got the list of who is being honored tonight because, look, we've discussed this. Technically, Jermaine Cousinard and Keyshawn Bryant both have another year of eligibility because of the COVID year, but they will be honored tonight along with several others you have on the list over at Colonial Life Arena.
Yeah, so Bryant Cousinard, Mike Green, Brandon Martin, James Reese, Eric Stevenson, and A.J. Wilson.
And I think out of that group,
4 transfers.
I think out of that group, James Reese and A.J. Wilson, and I believe Brandon Martin are officially out of eligibility.
How does Eric Stevenson still have eligibility?
I don't know. I think he pulled the play where he just basically said, "Hey, do I have any years left?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Just take another year." I believe he's only played. I believe this is his 4th year. He's transferred twice, but I believe this is his 4th year. But he got his COVID year, so therefore he was okay.
Crazy.
I believe that is correct. Again, the COVID thing is confusing a lot of us who are trying to figure out eligibility for players. I mean, look, not to go way off tangent here talking about basketball. Spencer Rattler technically has 3 years of eligibility left. I mean, we're acting like he's a one and done at quarterback. He has 3 years of eligibility. You know, the general feeling is like, oh, well, he's going to come here, he's going to light it up, he's going to take off to the NFL because he's a senior. Well, he actually is, I guess, a junior and has a redshirt year. If he had to use it, he could conceivably hang around for a little bit and play some more football for South Carolina beyond just this year. I think you're hoping that doesn't happen. You're hoping he has the kind of year where it's a one and done and he's off to the NFL to be a first-round draft pick and a potential Heisman. That would be a really good thing for South Carolina. But the COVID year, the free year of eligibility has really, really messed up everybody mentally with what you hear.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got way down a rabbit hole on the daylight savings thing because everyone came to my defense on the text line. So I'm actually trying to find out, does the sun actually rise and set for shorter amounts of time? Or is it just the perspective of it going down later in the day?
Okay, what we'll have to do is during the break, because you are right, everybody is basically weighing in on your side, and I'm not sure I'm on board with this because
it might be a fact. I might just be right. But your perspective changes whether you wake up to the sunrise or seasons control length of day. Days are long in the summer because Earth's position in the sun, not because of daylight savings. Daylight savings simply moves the time of day you experience the light. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It just moves that extra hour to the evening versus the morning, and most people feel like the days are longer because they are not awake when the sun rises anyway.
Okay, but again, going to whatever the summer solstice, I believe. All right, kids. All right. Everybody sit down and let's go off sports for a minute before we get there.
Because this is one of those things where we talk about sports and we don't get as much traction as when we talk about daylight savings. Because then we just got a dozen texts.
Yeah, we did. A lot of people weighed in, and we've already helped with the kids this morning. We've done a Fat Tuesday segment and Mardi Gras, and Patrick broke all that down. So if you weren't awake for the first segment, now let's go. Now let's teach the kids something else. All right, what have you got on daylight savings time?
Not much. I'm really just reading the text. It's just the amount of time between sun. What I Googled was, does the sun stay up for the same length every day? Because that's ultimately what I was trying to figure out. And it says the amount of time between sunrise and solar noon remains more or less the same as the amount of time between solar noon and sunset. Thus, the days get longer, but the sun actually only rises a little bit earlier every day and reaches the highest point in the sky at midday. I I don't know what's actually going on.
All right, let's go out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Cocky Codger has got welcome in, Cocky Codger. You apparently have it all figured out. Please enlighten us.
No, I'm just gonna tell you this: the sun doesn't move; it sits where it is. The Earth goes around it once a year. The amount of sunlight you get in a particular place on the Earth in a particular day is determined by the Earth's axis and where you are in your daily spin as the Earth turns. We have places in the Earth that have 24-hour days, and then later in the year, 24-hour nights. But the sun doesn't move and your day doesn't change. It's just where you are in position. So yes, Patrick is right in the sense that the Earth, nothing moves, nothing changes. It's the same thing, but the amount of daylight you get can change in a particular area
Exactly.
on a month-to-month basis. So
we're all right.
I just want y'all to be able to get back to Kyler Murray.
Thank you so much for the phone call.
All right.
Thanks. So I feel like what we just established was we are all correct in what we are saying.
I guess so.
Yeah, I understand that.
I'm still confused about all of it.
You don't add hours to the day
Correct.
with daylight. I understand that there's still 24 hours in a day, but
You experience more daylight.
the amount of sunlight you get changes.
That's why people have seasonal depression too.
Yeah,
because it gets dark. Earlier in the night.
I think. Yeah, the days. I think we all understand that it doesn't become.
It's still 24 hours.
It's still a 24-hour day. Yeah. All right, boy.
Let's get Aaron Lucas on the phone.
Welcome into the early game, folks, where we can provide you. We've done the Fat Tuesday and the Mardi Gras stuff. We have now handled the daylight savings time question, and we will get back into South Carolina basketball tonight, 7:00 over at Colonial Life Arena. There's actually another interesting story that I wanted to get into in that segment, and it involves Kentucky's Oscar Sheetway and a potential NIL deal that would actually be more profitable. And I didn't realize, I haven't looked at a mock draft in a while, but it would be more profitable for Oscar Sheetway to go back to Kentucky and take the NIL deal, because right now he's only projected as a second-round pick.
Yeah, he's not a modern-day NBA guy.
So we'll discuss that as well. So a lot to get into this morning, but up first, we'll get into South Carolina tonight taking on Missouri with Aaron Lucas. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game. Okay, I'm just going to add this. Steve-O weighs in. As someone who works daylight until dark every day, I can tell you that in winter, we get around 10 hours of daylight. In summer, we get closer to 14 hours, which I feel like is now helping my cause, even though I agree with you. There's not more hours in the day. All right, you get the point. But there's a whole conversation being had, and one of those, and it might be debatable, but one conversation that is not debatable is right now where you can find the largest selection of vehicles, of Chevrolets anywhere in the Midlands. That is Love Chevrolet. Also not debatable that at Love Chevrolet, you will definitely get the best deal possible. Go visit for yourself. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. Whether it is 14 acres of brand new Chevrolets, whether it is the $1,000 low price guarantee, meaning you can actually shop other dealerships and take their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, who will then top it or write you a check for $1,000, or whether it's the incredible family atmosphere, the customer service that occurs at Love Chevrolet. You cannot top what Love Chevrolet will do when you go visit them to purchase your next car or truck. Again, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Tell you what, those great folks out there, they are experienced in the industry. 60 years in business is how long Love Chevrolet's been around, and most of the sales staff have been there for at least 20 years. So when you go to visit Love Chevrolet, not only do you have the best selection, the best price available, you have the most experienced salespeople. They're ready to help you make a great decision on a new Chevrolet vehicle. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads. Thank goodness we have, I think, Aaron Lucas up next because, boy, I feel like we would spend an hour arguing with people on the daylight savings time because there is some very confused people on there.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. Yes, please. RL, that we could. Yeah, we might actually have to do that.
Next time we do a science discussion, I want to talk about dinosaurs.
It's true. We not only do we talk sports, but we teach about food and other topics. We are very educational. The good news is you will never get math out of that. Do people really think that we started saying that there was more than 24 hours in a day?
I think so, but it's possible.
We are covering many different areas.
I'm just saying that, like, the day after the clock changes, people are going to say, oh, look how much longer the day is. It got dark an hour later. I had a longer day. But if you woke up before the sun rose, you wouldn't be saying that because you had the same amount of sunlight, maybe a minute less. Someone said a minute and 20 seconds shorter every day after the winter solstice. So what's going to happen? When is this? Next weekend? This weekend? Is this weekend, Bill?
Huh?
Is this happening this weekend?
What?
Daylight?
No, next weekend. Next weekend.
So it's going to be 8 o'clock right now. It's not going to be.
Forward, yes.
Okay,
so we would be technically at 8 o'clock.
So the sun will. So if sun rises at 7, it's actually going to rise at 6. Yeah. Okay. So most people aren't going to be awake when the sun rises anyway.
Right.
So they're not going to experience that part of it. It's just they're backloading their sunlight, whereas we front load our sunlight.
Yes.
I don't see the sun anyway because I'm only awake when the sun's not shining.
To get us back on track, we turn to Aaron Lucas, former South Carolina point guard. Aaron, I'm not even going to ask. I don't know if you were listening to that previous segment on daylight savings time, and a lot of people started weighing in on the text line. My head hurts. You are a teacher, though. I mean, maybe we could just skip the basketball talk and have an educational segment with you right now on daylight savings time and the math required for hours and how long the sunlight is out. Would you rather discuss that, or do you want to get into some basketball?
Well, first and foremost, I'm definitely not a math teacher or a teacher at all. I'm a school counselor, so I probably wouldn't be qualified to give any discussion or answers on daylight savings time or the calculations that go into it.
Well, look, we might need some counseling, so you still would come in very handy at right now trying to help us. But we will move on to basketball and where things stand. South Carolina right now sits at 17-11 on the season. Obviously, the 90-71 loss on Saturday afternoon, but tonight a chance for senior day. Let's just start. You and I were kind of cutting up the other day when we were text messaging back and forth about your senior night. You were trying to remember it, but what do you remember from senior night and just that chance to go out with the family? And obviously you were right here from Richland Northeast, so it was everything had occurred for your high school and your college career in Columbia in front of family. But what do you remember just about senior night, the emotions that you get in that environment?
Well, I think first of all, it was it's pretty electric being in Frank McGuire Arena, just knowing that was going to be the last run for us as seniors. I just remember, family coming up, obviously trying to get tickets organized, but just remember just the atmosphere being electric overall. And it was a little bit emotional, but at the same time, we had bigger plans in place to finish the season out not make that the last game of the year.
You watch this basketball team this year, and there's been a lot of good things. There's been some disappointing things. Break down what you've seen from Jermaine Cousinard, who has tried his best, I think, to handle the point guard position, has succeeded at times, and at times has struggled. There was 7 turnovers on Saturday against Alabama. What have you seen from him and his development to where he really is playing well, despite that number of turnovers I just gave here late in the season?
Well, watching that game, you look at certain possessions, you look at certain situations that happened, and when the ball is in your hands and you're the primary playmaker and scorer, in that situation, you're gonna take risk and you're gonna have opportunities to try to create things for your teammates or yourself. And turnovers is part of the game, especially when you have the ball in your hands that much. But watching Jermaine over the course of this year grow more into that point guard role, I think he's done a great job. Obviously, there's still adjustments because in the SEC and, everywhere else in the country, each game you're being scouted. They know your tendencies. They know what you like to do and what you don't like to do. So he'll have to continue to modify and adjust as he goes forward, kind of play the chess match before the game begins, obviously doing his research and the scouting report and watching film. But, overall, I think he's done a great job of really being the leader down this stretch. So hopefully continue to play well and the Gamecocks can start getting some more wins.
Are you seeing much different in the way he's playing the position, or is it more just about confidence and knocking down shots, really, that's helping the team overall? And do you think that will be, if this is his last game at Colonial Life Arena and he goes on to the G League or the NBA or Europe or whatever it is, do you think he'll be a point guard going forward? Is that his natural fit?
I think the biggest thing for him, he's always had the physical tools, so he could score the basketball coming in. I think early on in his career, he's more of a spot shooter playing on the wing. But, anytime you adjust, and I had to make that adjustment as well, playing the point guard position, it's really all cerebral. You have to be able to see the floor, understand your teammates, the chemistry, the momentum of the game. So there's a lot more that goes into it that I think he's grown into. I think with his size and his ability to score when need be would make him more, more of a prospect professionally, just because he has that ability and he's grown into that position. I think it will benefit him later on in his career. But for the most part, he's done a good job of learning the position. I mean, it's not easy, especially in this conference, playing for Coach Martin and, some of the things schematically that they do. He's certainly grown into it, and I think the team looks to him to lead at this point.
He's Aaron Lucas joining us this morning, looking back at his time at South Carolina, but also at what this team has done. And Aaron, as you go into the final week of the season, you have people like Patrick and I and others on this radio station. You have newspapers. You have everybody who's talking about your season and trying to make the postseason. Your season there, I think y'all made the NIT, if I remember correctly. Is that correct? And that was 2002. Does that seem correct?
Yeah, we went on that. I would say I wouldn't call it magical because I wouldn't want to put it in comparison to 2017. But I think we went on a fun ride to the NIT championship. We ended up losing to Memphis. But I think a lot of people expected us just to kind of fizzle out towards the end of the year, especially going to the NIT again. And so, but, us as seniors, we didn't want to, finish our careers, just at one more game at Frank McGuire Arena. I think we beat UNLV, then we went to Virginia and then played Syracuse. So, it was a fun ride for us. I think the fans enjoyed it, and I think that started a turn with the back-to-back NIT runs following that.
How does that? How right now as a player, these guys, and they're trying to compete 2 games this week, and then they'll go to Tampa for the SEC tournament. How do you handle that as a player with outside noise about what may or may not happen?
Well, I think you have to insulate yourself and realize the noise is going to be there regardless, and you got to continue to work and realize what your goals are. And, that's one thing that, we had the benefit of back then. We didn't have, social media and a number of other things that could be a distraction that we had access to. So now it's just a matter of them insulating themselves as a team, realizing that, there's still a lot of basketball to be played. The SEC tournament could be magical. It could be something that turns into, a bigger picture for them. So you just have to go back to the drawing board of what your goals are, get back to work, and realize, there's a lot more basketball ahead of you. Just have to cut down on mistakes and just learn from the season as a whole.
You've mentioned a couple times Frank McGuire Arena. It's been a massive talking point on this show is just Colonial Life Arena and some of the empty atmospheres that you see in some of these games. What is your take on that arena? Is it a disadvantage? And I mean, what we've seen the great environment it can be like in LSU and helping lead the team to a win, but we also see just kind of duds sometime. How different is it sitting in the crowd watching a game from Colonial Life Arena than it was you playing in front of that crowd of Frank McGuire?
It's different because obviously the capacity is a lot larger. So, you're sitting a little bit, it feels like you're sitting a little bit further away from the action. Frank McGuire, it felt like, 12,000 people were standing literally on top of you while you were playing and being able to physically touch you, pat you on the back, give you a boost. And sometimes in Colonial Life it may feel like a practice. Where people they're further away from you, so you really can't feel the energy. But there's been moments throughout the years in Colonial Life Arena that you've seen it become an electric atmosphere where the fans and the players feed off of each other and become something special. So hopefully we'll get to a point where it's more consistent. I think Dawn Staley and her staff have done a good job of making it that way. So I think Coach Martin and his staff will, continue to work on that, and hopefully the fans will, realize the support is sometimes bigger than the wins and losses, and may actually propel the wins more when we show up and show out.
He's Aaron Lucas joining us this morning. A few more minutes. Talk about what you've seen with Devin Carter this year. Certainly a guy that South Carolina can build around. They're going to lose a few players, obviously, after this year. But what you've seen from Devin Carter and what you think the next step for him is in his game in the offseason?
Well, obviously he's I think before his career is over, certainly going to be a fan favorite with his athleticism and his ability to play as hard as he plays, every minute he's on the floor. And, again, it's going to be maturation for him as well. He's got to learn this conference, learn the league, learn the teams, understand that every night is going to be a different night. At this level, it's really more about the psychological aspect and approach to the game because, it is a chess match. Every team, everybody that you play against understands your tendencies. So he's got to continue to grow as a player. Obviously, his perimeter game has to develop more. And I could foresee him being a, multifaceted player where he could play the 1, the 2, and sometimes get down low with his athleticism and help on the boards like he has this year. So if he continues to develop over the summer and really start to, come into his own, I think he could be a special player in the future.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of the bright spots going into next year. But I wonder what's been your evaluation of the bigs this year? I mean, you look around the conference and there's some incredible ones. If you just go to Auburn and you see Walker Kessler, just a shot blocking machine. You see Oscar Tshiebwe over at Kentucky is just a double machine. And some of these guys that are able to really stretch the floor. And I don't know what you'd consider Jabari Smith, but being able to shoot the 3. And what do you just make of the South Carolina bigs right now? You got some nice moments from Taekwon Woodley this year. And I don't know what to think of Weldon Levesque and Josh Gray's performance in the year. But what do you think of those guys?
Well, I think Josh Gray, obviously, physically, he fits the mold and passes the eye test. But, obviously when you're transferring in and, having a first year with the team and trying to develop the chemistry, understand the system, it takes time. I think Weldon Levesque has done a really good job of developing into a solid big, but he's got to be more consistent. We saw the other night he has the ability to step out and shoot the mid-range shot. He's been good at times on the boards and being a protector of the rim. So, we just have to continue to find ways to get them involved. But again, when you're a perimeter-oriented team, it really becomes difficult for the bigs to get some of the looks that you see around the, other teams in the conference where they're more focused on their bigs, where, I think we're still a little bit more perimeter oriented.
Well, in your mind, is there a formula to winning in college basketball? I mean, because we see teams like Alabama throwing up 1,000,000 threes a game, but then you look to the Big Ten and you see a guy like Kofi Coburn that's putting up 20 and 10 every single night. Do you see the game trending towards the perimeter game like the NBA is, or do you think there's still like a way to win with dominant big men in college basketball?
Well, I think it's transitioned probably over the last, 7 to 8 years with obviously a Golden State, years ago going on their run and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. So you've seen a shift in the game where it is more perimeter oriented. You see guys run the pick and roll set a lot more than you have in the past. You see, guys shooting 25, 27, 30-foot threes in games now. So it has shifted, but I think traditionally, if you have an inside presence, that's why Auburn has been so good over the years, over this past year. When you have an inside presence, it definitely reshapes the game for a lot of good teams. And you see it across the country where if you don't have a post presence, it makes it really, really difficult.
He's Aaron Lucas joining us. Before I let you out, I want your opinion on South Carolina making the NIT. Certainly a lot of people point out, hey, it's NCAA or bust or whatever, but you've been a part of an NIT. You know what it's like. What does it do for the returning players? Because it's hard to compare it to, say, a bowl game where you actually get 15 practices or 14 practices to really develop. NIT, you find out, I guess, Sunday night, Monday morning or something, and usually you're playing Wednesday or Thursday. So it's not like you get a ton of extra practices, but what can an NIT appearance do for not just this team, this South Carolina team, but for a program? Is it as beneficial as we think sometimes, or is it just extra basketball?
Well, any extra basketball is beneficial. I don't think you can downplay, the opportunity to get more experience and compete. And I think that's one thing that Coach Martin's staff has always predicated, their philosophy on, is that, having the ability to compete every night. So an NIT run was certainly for the young guys like a Devin Carter, give him more time on the floor. Obviously, you'll see some different competition and some different styles of play. So it gives you a chance to grow a little bit more. And again, I go back to my senior year and the run that we had, being able to, build off of that. I think as a program, and, obviously with them going to, I believe, the NCAA the following year, and then having that back-to-back NIT run. So it gives, the program itself an opportunity to continue to establish itself. I think Frank Martin has adjusted a good bit with his style and philosophy. So having these new guys come in, you got another group coming in to, build off of that. So it's another great opportunity to compete, learn, grow, build more chemistry, and then that takes you into the offseason.
We appreciate you for joining us and getting us off of the daylight savings time conversation. We were going down a bad rabbit hole there, and you have saved the program just as you did many a time during your time at South Carolina. We won't consider this your senior night. We'd like to have you back many more times here in the next few weeks, especially with the NCAA tournament coming up. Get your take on how that's shaking out and who you like, all right?
Sounds good. Look forward to it. Go Cox.
Hey, take care. Aaron Lucas, former South Carolina point guard, now the girls coach over there at Lower Richland. We'll continue on, get back into a little bit of that Kyler Murray discussion coming up at 8:05 this morning. Also, John Whittle will join us. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game. Yep, getting out there, playing a little basketball in the driveway. You can do that with your kids, right? You can get out there and bang around, post them up. But if you've been suffering from issues with ligaments, with your knees, with your hips, with your back, it's time to get yourself right to whip up on your kids in the front yard game of basketball. Call QC Kinetics today. It's the nation's leader in regenerative solutions that can restore and repair damaged tissue, and they can do it with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. Call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation. 803-281-6860. Again, that's 803-281-6860. QC Kinetics, and the way they do things is a new, better, smarter, non-surgical, non-invasive way to deal with joint pain. They're treating patients every day in hundreds of clinics nationwide with remarkable success. life-changing results. And again, 0 downtime. So you can call to visit one of their facilities here in town today. 803-281-6860. Again, free consultation. So just make the phone call, see what they can do for you. Don't let the spring and summer hold you back when you have joint pain. Make it the best spring and summer ever. 803-281-6860. That's QC Kinetics. 803-281-6860. I heard 1883 had a wild ending.
Yeah, I've not seen 1883. I don't want to watch it before Yellowstone, and apparently you can only watch the first season of Yellowstone on Peacock or whatever it is.
Spring cleaning is here, and that means making sure your house looks beautiful. I mean, let's face it, people are coming over. Easter's just around the corner. Maybe you're having a big St. Patrick's Day party, whatever it may be. Spring cleaning is here for you. But the easiest thing in the world to do, call Zero Res. They'll get it done for you with that patented ZR water technology. Zero Res will make sure you are taken care of. So don't hesitate. Give them a phone call today, 803-262 4020, and you can book right now. When you mention me, Bill Gunner, you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $109. Plus, you'll get a hallway clean for free. So you want to make sure you actually remember my name. I know that sometimes that is not what you want to do, but with Zero Res and the professionalism, the incredible ZR water technology that does not use any soaps or harsh chemicals. It is patented. It is electrolyzed oxidative. I'll get it out, I promise. Oxidative water that cleans better than a detergent. You want to get Zero Res to your house today. So go ahead, make that phone call, 803-262-4020, or you can schedule online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Again, right now, the spring cleaning sale going on. 3 rooms of carpet clean for $109. And again, when you mention me, Bill Gunner, and 1075 The Game, you'll get a hallway cleaned for free. So don't wait around. Get the MVP of the cleaning game out to your house. Zero Res, 803-262-4020, or schedule online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Did you hear that? $7:43 on a Tuesday morning, March the 1st. Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen. What we've been talking about this morning when we're not goofing off, cutting up about Mardi Gras or daylight savings time has been South Carolina basketball. Big thank you to Aaron Lucas for joining us in the previous segment to talk about the team that's been, we'll talk a little bit about Jermaine Cousinard and Devin Carter. And Patrick, one of the things that Aaron Lucas talked about that I do think is important, whether it's Frank Martin as coach next year or somebody else, you want to continue to get some games under your belt. And making the NIT, that is, I get that you want NCAA tournament bids. I totally am with that. A couple years ago, Trey Dyson said, and he was like, I can't even get into the NCAA tournament if my team's not in it. And I was like, well, dude, they've been in it 5 times in the last 45 years. You've missed a lot of great NCAA tournaments. Yeah, I get that you want to see more NCAA tournament bids, but I do think there's a level of getting to the NIT that just helps build your program. I mean, I guess.
Who's it important for?
That's
Devin Carter?
Taquan Woodley. Yeah,
maybe even a
Williams Levesque who's going to be back.
I
You
guess,
assume.
yeah.
I mean, transfer portals, you never know these days on who's gone and who's coming back. But, I don't know.
The 4 guys that we've talked about are now all averaging over 30 minutes a game, are all going to be honored at senior night tonight. Probably all going to be gone. Reese Stevenson.
Reese is definitely gone. Reese
Yeah.
is definitely gone. He is out of eligibility. John Whittle can confirm all this when we have him on here in about
Cousinard
20
and
minutes. Cousinard and Bryant likely are gone. Now, they do have a year of eligibility. So you talk about, like, let's hypothetically say,
Gigi Jackson commits and they say,
well,
you know what?
Yeah, let's say Gigi Jackson is recruit number 1 that you got to get. Yeah, you could make the case Cousinard and Bryant are recruits 2 and 3 to get them to come back and say, I think both are wise enough to know that the NBA potential is, well, I would think both are wise enough to know that being drafted in those 60 draft spots is not going to happen.
Well, go ahead and parlay this into the Oscar Tshiebwe discussion because those two guys aren't coming back to South
You know
Carolina
what? That's a
and
great
making
point.
millions of dollars.
Who you say?
Not Cousinard and Bryant, if they came back, will not be making millions of dollars next year.
Okay, let's get into that's a great question. That's a great point, and I'm glad you brought this back up because name, image, likeness does make this very interesting for guys like Cousinard and Bryant.
Yeah.
Oscar Tshiebwe, this is out of Kentucky. Kentucky Sports Radio is reporting this that they spoke with basically. I believe this is it is an agent. Tshiebwe's agent, Nate Conley of the family, confirmed with Kyle Tucker of The Athletic. So hopefully you followed all of that. Nate Conley, the agent for Oscar Tshiebwe, confirmed with Kyle Tucker of The Athletic, the website The Athletic, the standout center already has a game-changing deal lined up if he decides to return to school. Yeah. So he's not getting the deal now because obviously they're not going to, I guess, whoever it is, they're not saying who the deal is with. But he does not have he is projected Oscar Tshiebwe, the 6'9" center, who, as you mentioned, is a double machine, is absolutely. I think he had 31 and 18 over the weekend, and they still lost. But as things stand currently, Tshiebwe is seen as a potential second rounder in the latest draft boards. And as you mentioned, that's because he's not really your prototypical NBA player these days. He can't step out and shoot it.
He's not 7 feet tall.
Right. It says the 6 foot. I mean, this is an article from just a few days ago.
He's not totally dissimilar from why Chris Silver's had trouble sticking around because he's an undersized center that doesn't really stretch the floor.
Right. It says the 6'9" center has not sniffed any major mock drafts all season long, with the pro buzz just now starting to ramp up. Considering, again, I'm reading the article from Kentucky Sports Radio, considering late first-round picks don't even secure multi-million-dollar deals, picks number 23 through 30 in the 2021 NBA draft all had first-year rookie salaries under $2 million. Tshiebwe would certainly clear second-round or undrafted money by returning to Kentucky. Now, again, they've not put out what exactly the deal is. It just says, again, this is Nate Conley, Oscar Tshiebwe's agent, saying, this is the quote he told to Kyle Tucker of The Athletic, I'm looking at an email right now. If he comes back to school, there will be a multi-million-dollar deal on the table. Now, let's flip that around to South Carolina. Obviously, there's not going to be a multi-million-dollar deal for Jermaine Cousinard or Keyshawn Bryant. But the people over at Gamecock Central with the Garnet Trust, let's say they come up with some money. I don't know, $30,000, $40,000? I mean, I have zero idea. I mean,
if they were going to Europe, they're going to make mid six figures per year.
Depends on what league. I don't see this. That's what I was going to say. I have no idea where they would factor in Europe. Yeah, you're right. Some of the Rolando,
Germany, Italy, places like that.
It depends on what level league you end up in. Potentially, it's there. I don't know if they would end up in that kind of league. Rolando Howell was a good friend of mine. We grew up playing basketball together. He was making close to $1 million, right at, and I think a little over $1 million in the top Italian league.
That's what you're going to pretty much max out as a daily. Even if you're the best player on your team, you probably max out around $1 million.
I remember Roe back in the day coming home from Italy. This was I guess mid 2000s when I still knew him pretty well. Obviously he's passed on, but having a discussion with him about coming, and he had an offer to go basically be about the 12th man for the Los Angeles Lakers. Sit on the bench, make the league minimum, but be in the NBA. And he actually turned it down to stay in Italy because he was making more money. He was a star on the top Italian league team over there and was doing some really good things. Again, maybe you're right. Maybe Cousinard and Bryant could go over to one of those leagues in Italy or Spain or Germany and make six figures. Maybe they don't. I mean, that's kind of always the theory is like, well, yeah, I'll just go over there and make, say $150,000. Well, that's not always the case. They conceivably, if Garnet Trust or somebody says, hey, we'll pay you $50,000 to endorse, whatever it is. Yeah, it might be worth it to come back for one more year and make that money. They've already got their education. They're going to have their degrees. That's a big part of them moving on. But Patrick, the NIL deal does change things a little bit as it pertains to guys who might want to leave or might want to stay.
If you feel like, hey, another year in college basketball, another year of exposure, maybe we feel like we can make a tournament next year and get a little bit more attention that way, and I can actually attempt to go down the NBA path next year. Because right now, we're sure neither of them are getting drafted. They're just not. There's too much talent in college basketball, and you never even hear their names mentioned. I'm not sure if either or both of them would get invited to the combine, which is usually not a great sign if you don't even get invited to the combine. So right now, the path would be Europe. So I mean, maybe if you say, hey, we can get you each up to $75,000. That's around, if not, it's close to what you'll make overseas, and you get to live in America for another year. You can take Italian classes. You can pick up a postgraduate degree in Italian or Spanish or whatever, and get yourself ready to go play in Europe.
Yeah, and let me go back to this.
That's what I would do.
Anonymous texter says GG is a junior. Cousinard and Bryant have 1 year of eligibility left. They would not all play together. The consensus is GG
going to reclassify.
may reclassify. We're not. You are correct. GG Jackson is a junior over at Ridgeview, but the feeling is if he commits to South Carolina, that he will reclassify
because his coach is leaving to go to Oak Hill.
Right. He's going to, so that's why we're saying that is because, yeah, he does have another year of eligibility in high school, but he's talking about going ahead and committing this month.
Which a lot of the top players do anyway, because it just gets you a year closer to cash in that big check.
And the elephant in the room, let's be honest. We don't know the exact future of Frank Martin past this year. I don't know. GG Jackson wouldn't commit to South Carolina thinking, well, Frank Martin could be there in 2 years. That would be something where he could very simply wait it out a little bit longer. The feeling on this is that if he commits to South Carolina, he probably reclassifies and becomes part of this class. I'm with you. I don't know if that changes the general perception of Jermaine Cousinard and Keyshawn Bryant. They might be way more interested in, hey, what NIL deal can you get? And another anonymous texter just weighs in and says average overseas salaries are 35 to 50,000. Again, it depends on where you end up. I mean,
and how. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that Kotsar is a starter and one of the better players on his team in Germany. I don't know how much he makes, and I don't even know where that would put Cousinard and Keyshawn Bryant. Would they go overseas and immediately be the best player or a starting member of a top flight Italian team or top flight Spanish team? I have no idea. I know that they say the next most competitive league is the Spanish Super League or whatever it is, because that's where Luka was playing, and I don't know if they would go there. I just don't know what the talent level's like. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's not nobody. If anybody has listened for the last 2 minutes and has any knowledge of how to listen and use their ears, nobody is suggesting that Cousinard or Bryant are going to get drafted.
We actually flat out said they're not getting drafted.
Yeah, some people. But the bottom line is that no, their options are to go overseas. You don't get, and clearly the one texter doesn't understand basketball because you don't get drafted to go overseas. You sign. You just go sign your deal. Let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines real quick. Rusty, you got about a minute, and he's got a Mardi Gras story. You got 45 seconds. Make it a quick one.
All right, I'll make it quick. Listen, I marched in the Greatest Band in Dixie parade with the Camden High School band when I was a teen. And as we were marching to the French Quarter, the band director came along the side of the band and said, "Look straight ahead, don't look up. Look straight ahead, don't look up." Well, as a 15-year-old, I looked up, and the women along the balcony were exposing themselves. And I want to tell you, it's one of the greatest parades I've ever been in my life, guys. So for a 15-year-old with raging hormones. So go to the Mardi Gras.
Say raging something else.
Thank you for the phone call, Rusty. Good way to wrap up hour number 2. Big thank you to Aaron Lucas. John Whittle coming up at 8:05 this morning. We'll talk some Gamecock baseball. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
That was great.
Yeah, that's very real. That scene on Bourbon Street. It's
a Carolina LSU game and it was happening, and I remember the discussion was like, "Oh my God, what would it be like for Mardi Gras?"
It's awesome.
Like those back-to-back ticks between Ray. 8:01 on a Tuesday morning, March the 1st. Want to remind you, coming up March 18th, so not too far away, 2 weeks from this Friday, March 18th, 107.5 The Game will have our spring open at the Windermere Club in Blythewood. And if you've heard us talking about it, you know we're doing something a little bit different for the spring open. It'll be two-person captain's choice teams, two-person teams, $200 per team. So, typically you play in your four-man captain's choice teams when you play in a golf tournament. This will be two-person teams. So all you got to do is find one friend this time. You don't have to find three others. 10 a.m. shotgun start. Again, two-person teams, $200 per team. We will have raffle prizes closest to the pin, $1 million hole, sponsored by Buford Lending, plus breakfast and lunch. All entries get a free golf membership to the Windermere Club until March 31st. So if you go ahead and you sign up, you can go to 1075thegame.com for registration information. If you sign up, you can get a free golf membership at the Windermere Club until March 31st. Again, it'll be the 1075 The Game Spring Open Friday, March 18th at the Windermere Club in Blythewood. Patrick and I will be out there early in the morning, 6 to 9. We'll be broadcasting, and that day, Patrick, will be the first morning after. I still consider Thursday night. You got the play-in games now on Tuesday night and Wednesday night that occur in Dayton, Ohio, in the NCAA tournament. Yep. But Thursday has always been, I think, probably even for you, near and dear to my heart in terms of opening day of the NCAA basketball tournament. And that Friday morning, we will be able to break down. We'll probably be you'll be exhausted. You'll have worked anyway. I'll be exhausted from staying up until midnight, hoping for buzzer beaters or some kind of huge upset. It'll be opening day, and then you'll be able to play golf, and we'll all be able to hang out and get ready. That also is St. Patrick's weekend in 5 Points. So if you want to,
another big one,
Blues Traveler.
Yep.
Yeah, how about that? Blues Traveler's coming. Just not.
You strike me as a Blues Traveler fan.
It's a jazzy. It's blues. It's jazzy. I can get in there and kind of enjoy it, and that should be a lot of fun. So if you're looking to make a big weekend of it, that should be a really, really fun weekend. This coming weekend will be really big, as it always is in the Palmetto State. South Carolina and Clemson, the annual 3-game rivalry, will get going this coming Friday night, 7 o'clock over at Founders Park. It'll shift over to Segra Park right down here on Bull Street, the Battle of Bull Street on Saturday before heading up to Doug Kingsmore Stadium on Sunday. And to break it all down, to give analysis unlike you get anywhere else, and maybe even a little bit of daylight savings time conversation, John Whittle joining us from the BigSpur.com. And Whittle, you got a Sunday off. That was kind of neat. Way to call the double hitter. Way to tell them on Friday, guys, bad weather on Sunday. Let's just play 2 on Saturday so I can have a day off. Very wise of you, sir.
Yeah, we're not going to have many Sundays off here for a little while. I'll see you in June, maybe. No, there are a couple of games this year that start Thursday, Friday, or go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I tell you what, the Sundays off are rare, but they're awesome. I love it.
Let's go back and revisit last weekend for a second and start with the two pitchers. Number one, the good of the pitchers. Will Sanders, fantastic on Friday night. 7 innings pitched, did his thing. Looks like they're easing him into the season, and you're going to obviously need him on this coming Friday night. So talk about his performance, and I guess ramping him up, not just for SEC play, but really for the next 2 weekends. He threw 5 innings against Greensboro to open the season, 7 innings this week or last weekend. So I guess he is now ready to go. He is not on a pitch count. Will be ready to go Friday night.
Well, let's call Will Sanders good this past weekend. Okay. He wasn't fantastic. He needs to be fantastic going forward, though. He's left some pitches a little bit up in the zone and giving up some home runs. Gave up 2 the other day to a team that hadn't hit any in the first weekend that they played. So, and he gave up a home run the first weekend as well. And he's done a great job of keeping people off base in general. Hadn't allowed any walks. So all 3 of those home runs have been solo home runs. So that's good. That's fine. But he's got to be a little bit better in terms of pitch location. UNC Greensboro, I think, is going to hit a little bit this year. George Washington, I don't think is. But he's going to face some teams that are better, and he's got to be a little bit better. So he was good, and you're exactly right on getting him stretched out a little bit. You look at how many pitches he throws, and I think he was at 87 the other day against George Washington, and so he's stretched out that pitch count a little bit now, and he can get up probably to about that 100 pitch mark, and that's where you want him to be going into Clemson weekend, your third weekend of the season. So good there for him. Can be a little bit better, and I think will be a little bit better.
Well, John, it kind of feels like he needs to win every Friday. I mean, if you want to have a chance to win series in the SEC and against teams like Texas and Clemson, especially with picking up injuries and the rest of the rotation, does it not feel like Will Sanders just needs to go out there and basically win every Friday night for you to have a chance to win a series? And is his personality such that he just kind of embraces that and thinks of it that way too?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, he's with the way this pitching staff is. If you don't get a Will Sanders win, it's going to be hard to win much anything right now with the shape this pitching staff is in. And I do think Will has that personality to where he can accept some of that responsibility and not feel too much weight on his shoulders. So yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. It's going to be a real challenge here these next. I think it's going to be at least a couple of weeks before you get Julian Bosnick back. It may be closer to a month before you get him back. And I from what I understand, Mark Kingston sounded more optimistic on 107.5 yesterday, talking with Jay, than what was presented to me on Sunday night. I was told Sunday night it didn't look real good that for Josiah Seitler to be ready, this coming weekend against Clemson. Mark Kingston sounded a little more optimistic, but it may be another week or two for him. And then, with James Hicks going down and Kingston hasn't said anything publicly yet, but I think he's going to miss some time, probably the year. I mean, that's 3 of your top 4 starting pitchers right there that are out right now. So yeah, it's a ton. It's a ton on Will Sanders right now at this point, and he's got no choice but to try. I guess try to embrace it and take on that responsibility but I think he's also got some of that personality to be able to do so. But if South Carolina isn't winning behind Will Sanders, it's gonna be tough to win some of these other games too.
Real quick, you just kind of touched on it, but yeah, the James Hicks news, that was the downside. Will Sanders, I thought was a little bit more of the positive. James Hicks, the downside of that, and just what can you share on what you're hearing on that? And it doesn't sound like you had a time frame, but just maybe go a little bit more in depth on what you just kind of touched on.
Well, he left the game on Saturday and has an elbow injury, and I was told on Saturday after the game that it didn't look real good, that they weren't real optimistic. They felt like it was probably a torn UCL, and weren't real optimistic that it would be something different than the MRI. After seeing an MRI, he had the MRI yesterday. Mark said yesterday on Jay's show that sometimes that he did have the MRI, and sometimes you get a second and third opinion on those things. So it doesn't sound like first opinion was probably real good. But like I said, nothing official on that yet. But if it's a torn UCL, that's out for the year. Even if it's partially torn, he wouldn't be back this season. So that's I don't think the news will be different than that, but maybe it will. So we'll see when they have something to announce officially. But right now, I'm not expecting particularly good news.
Just to confirm, I think I know the answer to this, but Jack Mahoney has no role as a pitcher this year as he overcomes Tommy John surgery. Does he have a role with the team, second base, shortstop, outfield? Does he have a role, or could he conceivably pitch late in the season?
It's conceivable he could pitch late in the season. I haven't gotten any kind of update on that yet, or at least in the last month, to see where
see what the status of that is. You know, about a month ago, I was told that it was possible, but you typically want to try to avoid pushing somebody back from that. It usually takes about a year to where you can, you know, feel good about going out there and throwing and not having some kind of setback. But it's usually 18 months before you're as effective as you were prior to injury. So it'd be about a year towards the end of the year, and so it's possible. But you know, I think they want to try to avoid that.
So, in your opinion, without Hicks, without Bosnick, without Seitler, obviously you got Friday night. What does the rest of the weekend start to look like? Is it Cade Austin on Saturday and then bullpen games on Saturday? Are we just going to see a lot more Wesley Sweat and Aiden Hunter? Does this mean Michael Braswell pitches more than 5 batters and 5 strikeouts? I mean, what do you think this rotation starts to look like?
Well, if you're a student at the University of South Carolina, get your resume over. No, yeah. To me, I think you're exactly right. I think if it's me, I'm probably starting Cade Austin on Saturday. You know, he's got a pitch arsenal that is, I think, pretty effective against a Clemson team based on what I've seen from the little I've watched him so far this year. So I like Will Sanders on Friday, Cade Austin on Saturday, and you know, whatever you've got left going on Sunday. And you know, Wesley Sweat, as you mentioned, is obviously somebody who's stepped up and pitched well. And you know, if you can, maybe you start him on Sunday. But you know, he's a guy who's experienced throwing out of the bullpen, so you know, he may be just a guy who you throw out there in a relief situation on Friday, and maybe you can come back and go a few innings on Sunday at some point. So you know, I mean, Wesley Sweat's obviously pitched well. You look down the line a little bit, and Noah Hall's going to have to pitch some. He hasn't pitched great, but in my opinion, I don't think he's pitched up to his potential just yet. But he can go out there and get extended a little bit. Aiden Hunter has pitched much better than I expected. He's come so far since the fall. It's really kind of indescribable. You know, he's pitched so much better than I thought he would this year. He looks like he can give you a few innings. Matthew Becker. I mean, it's going to be a challenge to piece it together these next couple of weekends, but it's going to give some guys some opportunities who you didn't really think were going to have weekend opportunities to step up and show that they can be good.
John Whittle joining us from thebigspur.com. If you're not already, you definitely should be following him on Twitter at John M. Whittle is the way to do that. Let's just, I guess, kind of in that vein tonight, CJ Weems is expected to start. He actually, I didn't realize until I was reading the preview, he actually pitched against Appalachian State last year and had 4 innings and struck out 6, and South Carolina defeated Appalachian State here in Columbia 2-0. Tonight they'll meet in Charlotte. What do you expect from this game tonight? Because of what you just mentioned, do you maybe see, obviously you go to win the ball game, but do you see them maybe try to get a few more pitchers out there to see what they've got in this ball game tonight? Maybe do it a little bit more by committee just to see if somebody steps up or builds some confidence for the weekend?
Yeah. I mean, you're right on the right track with that. You know, you're starting CJ and it is Wines. CJ Wines. It doesn't look that way, but yeah, he'll get the start. And I would be very surprised if he throws more than 2 innings. Obviously, they're going to keep track of pitch count too. I would doubt that they would want anybody to throw more than about 45 pitches tonight, regardless of who it is, regardless of how quickly they motor through things in an inning. You know, you've got to have everybody available for the weekend at some point and probably ready to go by Saturday. So I don't think you want to throw anybody over 45 pitches. I think you'll see, you know, Cam Tringale for an inning, John Gilreath for an inning or two, Parker Coyne for an inning or two, Matthew Becker for an inning or so. You know, it wouldn't be surprising at all to see 5 or 6 guys throw tonight, regardless of whether they go 3 up, 3 down, or what. You got to got to spread everybody out and get everybody out of the game pretty quickly so they can be ready to go for the weekend.
Looking ahead to the weekend, give us a breakdown. We don't care to have any other Clemson people on. We're good with you. You can break it down as good as anybody else. Give us a quick what you've been able to see and read about with Clemson. What South Carolina will be facing this weekend in the Tigers?
A pitching staff that's certainly even before the injuries that's deeper than South Carolina's. Now they're much deeper. They got some arm strength in there, and that's something that South Carolina doesn't really have much this year. They'll be a little bit more traditional in terms of being able to run guys out of the bullpen who are throwing 94 miles an hour, 95 miles an hour. They got a couple of those kind of guys, whereas South Carolina really doesn't. They've got a guy on Friday night in Mac Anglin who can start and throw like Will Sanders. I mean, they got a guy who's just as good or not far behind him. From a offensive standpoint, Caden Grice is obviously the one you circle, All-American kind of kid, first-round draft pick kind of kid, huge left-handed power. He's incredible, man. Grice is really incredible. The Seth Beer comparison is a little bit obvious. So he's got that kind of juice and that kind of moxie about him. Great personality. Just as a baseball player, he'll probably be the best position player on the field this weekend. So apart from him, Cooper Ingalls, maybe one of their better hitters there in terms of putting the ball in play and getting base hits. Defensively, they've improved dramatically from where they were. So a very solid ball club all the way around. They're better this year, at least so far, than what I thought they would be. They're going to strike out some, I think that profile is going to hold true over the course of the year. So, if South Carolina can change some speeds, I think they can keep guys off balance and get some swings and misses. So, but yeah, it's going to be really difficult for South Carolina to win a couple of games with the pitching staff the way it is. You gotta win Friday night, as we talked about earlier with Sanders. But when you got Mac Anglin across from you, it's going to be hard to score too many runs too. So it's going to be a challenge on Friday night and figure out how to get through the next two. But it's certainly going to be a really good series this year, and as it always is, I think. But Clemson has a talent advantage, at least in terms of guys who are going to be able to play, going into the weekend.
Well, we, from the South Carolina perspective, mostly focus on the pitching staff because that's the biggest area of concern. But from the first weekend, from the Greensboro series to the George Washington series, we saw Brant Belk leading off and then going into the 5 spot. What is that? Just a result of Seitler being out, or we saw Carson Horning play that series in left field. Is this going to be a constant tinkering with the lineup, or is there a spot you like Belk more? And what are you thinking in left field there?
Well, I like Brant Belk as a leadoff hitter more than anybody else on this team. But Brant's off to a little bit of a slow start. He's had a game or two that's pretty good, but I figured he'd be hitting at least 350 right now against the competition that he's been playing. And he's obviously not. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but he's probably, if I had to guess, probably around 260. And he's got some on base percentage numbers a lot better with some walks that he's been able to work. But I think they've just been trying to. I think they just tried to. I think it was twofold. I think they want to get Cole Messina a few more at bats, so put him in the leadoff spot since he missed so much time. Was out the entire preseason and the first weekend, and just wanted him to see some live pitching. And when you put somebody in the leadoff spot, you're guaranteed you're probably going to have some more at bats. So I think that was twofold. I don't think it had much to do with Seitler being out, but Brant will stay at first base as long as Josiah's not playing, and Carson Hornick out in left field, and that's something that they'll be able to do. They really like Carson Hornick out there. He's been really good offensively. So I think you're going to see that from time to time over the course of the season, especially when Josiah pitches. They'll move Brandt in and put Hornick out there and left. So, it's kind of a combination of different things. I think Belk is I would think is going to go back into that leadoff role against Clemson as the competition steps up a little bit, get a little bit older guy out there who knows what he's doing and can handle the bat and hope that some of those base hits come, because, I was calling him Branty Barrels for a while there in the scrimmages, because everything he would hit, he would barrel up and just line somewhere, whether he got a hit or not. It was a line drive somewhere. So they need him to get back to that. I think he can be a really good leadoff hitter here, because he's not scared to push a bunt up the third base line and beat it out, and he just handles the bat really well. So I think you'll see him in the leadoff spot again.
Let's transition just a second here before we let you out. Basketball tonight at home against Missouri. I don't know if you were listening to the previous segment. Excuse me. We were talking about Oscar Sheetway at Kentucky, and right now he is kind of projected as a second-round pick, but there is the potential for an NIL deal, a multi-million NIL deal is what his agent is saying. Jermaine Cousinard and Keyshawn Bryant aren't going to get multi-million name, image, likeness deals. But John, if say, I mean, this is where I guess name, image, likeness could come into play. Could you foresee a situation where if somebody steps up and offers those guys name, image, likeness, that they're more willing to return next year? Or do you think tonight potentially is their final game at Colonial Life Arena?
Everything I've heard over the course of the season, coming into the season, is those guys are just kind of ready to get their degree and go give a shot to professional basketball. I haven't heard anything about anything NIL persuading or changing that conversation at all. But it's something I haven't really asked about recently either, whether, if they get a bunch of money, they'd stick around and play versus going to play pro ball. So, maybe that's something I need to look into. It's not something I've heard. I've just heard over and over again how, they want to start a professional basketball career after getting their degree in hand. So, it's something I'll look into, and maybe we can talk about it on a show later down the line. But, to be honest with you, I hadn't really thought about that conversation too much, and trying to keep kids in school through NIL stuff. So obviously I've heard the talk about keeping kids from transferring, getting them some NIL deals, but I hadn't really thought about keeping them from going pro in that manner too much. So, that's certainly something interesting, but it's the NIL is changing the world. Why can't it change South Carolina basketball?
Well, I hadn't thought about it either. I think I've heard a lot of the same stuff you've heard, and the only reason I even ask you is because we see this deal with Oscar Sheetway, where he's being projected as a second rounder, but could make more money going back to Kentucky to play basketball. And I don't know what Cousinard and Bryant could make with an overseas deal, but like Patrick and I figured, they probably aren't going to make one of the top leagues in Italy or Germany right off the bat, conceivably. And I don't know what the number figure, if you play another year of college basketball and you're making.
It's also very interesting in baseball where you go look at the slot money and you can just have someone be like, well, I'll pay you that much to come back.
Yeah. I mean,
how much is Michael Braswell about to make from Jay-Z?
Yeah,
a lot of money.
I did want to ask. I mean, like Braswell's another guy. It's kind of a weird scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It certainly is. I don't know that it doesn't seem to me like there's been a whole lot of great NIL deals around the University of South Carolina athletics programs just yet. Maybe it's partially because of the fact that so the student athletes right now haven't shown that they can command that kind of money just yet. I don't know if it's folks around here who are not businesses around here not stepping up and getting these guys some money. There's been plenty of smaller deals, and a lot of guys have the free gear kind of deals where they throw some stuff up on their Instagram. But it hasn't been a whole lot of big money around here just yet. So I would like to think that is some profiles of players get a little bit better nationally, that folks will step up with some real things like Spencer Rattler has gotten, for example. But I'll kind of believe when I see that folks around here are stepping up and giving out real money to real guys to keep them around, because apart from Spencer Rattler, there really hadn't been a ton of things to really boast about. DeCarrion Joyner's done some good things. Luke Doty and has done some things that are okay, but there hadn't been a whole lot of big money spent around here. And I was actually talking with somebody in the basketball program a couple of weeks ago and asked if there was much NIL going on with those guys, and because I hadn't really noticed anything, I hadn't really seen anything, and I was basically told nothing real over there at this point. So it would take a little bit of a dramatic shift from a South Carolina basketball standpoint to get something real in there that would really tempt those guys.
He's John Whittle from thebigspur.com. A lot of information out there right now. We won't. I feel like I could just keep you here for the whole hour. We just ask you questions about pretty much everything because you cover everything. But we'll tell people, go to thebigspur.com where you can ask him questions. I'm sure there's an Ask Whittle thread up there, isn't there somewhere? You got time for that, right?
Not right now, but probably soon. Well, I usually do one once a week, so maybe either tonight or tomorrow night.
There you go. Get on over there. Check out all the great work. They got a great VIP room up right now with a lot of great information on recruiting, some insight on the football and the baseball teams, as well as some information on G.G. Jackson. Go check that out. And Whittle, we'll catch up with you again either next week or week after, and we'll see. Big 2 weekends for Gamecock baseball, Clemson and Texas. So we definitely need to stay in touch.
Well, y'all be sure y'all hit on the drama surrounding the men's tennis team right now. That's some big stuff going on. Don't know if y'all saw that release last night or not. So we could have gotten into that one, but maybe next time.
I hate that. That's the car wreck, isn't it?
Right.
Or the wreck?
Yeah.
They were in the wreck.
Yeah.
I saw the tweet that they were okay though. That they're healthy, and that's the good news, right?
Yeah. So it's a little bit scary, but yeah, those guys traveling. That golf team, they travel in those big, like 16 passenger van kind of things. So, that's scary when something like that happens. But anyway, I'll let y'all get back to it. I appreciate you guys having me on.
We're always appreciative of you taking time to join us, buddy. Look forward to catching up with you soon. Have a great week. Good luck tonight.
You too. Take care.
Take care. John Whittle with thebigspur.com does a fantastic job, and always appreciate him taking time out to join us. We'll get back. We will get into that. And I have stumbled across, because I don't pay attention to Iowa basketball, women's basketball. I don't really pay attention to Caitlin Clark. But apparently, Patrick, have you heard the audio? Their head coach has got some words for Dawn Staley and Aaliyah Boston.
No, this is exciting.
We will get this audio.
The fans do.
We will get this audio to Jen, and we'll let you listen. Apparently, Lisa, I stink at saying names to begin with, so I'm going to go with Lisa Bluder, Bluder. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Well, she's being hateful. We don't care how to pronounce her
That's
name,
right.
right?
Who cares? We are turning our dislike onto Iowa and women's Iowa basketball. So get the pitchforks and torches out. We're going to play a little audio that I've come across here from the Iowa women's head basketball coach calling out South Carolina and Aaliyah Boston as to why Caitlin Clark should be the nation's best player of the year. Well, we'll get to that when we return. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
That's a funny tweet. Happy Fat Tuesday to Brian Kelly and his family. Yeah, I want to see a video of Brian Kelly with 25 pounds of crawfish and eating king cake with his bare hands today. Do you see the video of this running back from Louisiana, Trevante Citizen, put on 5 different hats?
Who?
Trevante Citizen.
What do you do?
Put on 5 different hats and then committed to Miami, I think. It's really obnoxious. I don't feel like Whittle was super depressing about the long-term prospects. It's just,
I don't know. Mark,
I mean, you got 3 of your top 4 starting pitchers are hurt right now. Well, when they come back, maybe it'll be a different story. If they come back. Sounds like James Hicks is not coming back.
All right. Oh. $8:37 on a Tuesday morning, March the 1st. Big thank you to John Whittle for joining us there in the previous segment. A lot of information there, especially regarding the South Carolina baseball team as they prepare to head to Charlotte tonight to take on Appalachian State, and then obviously the 3-game series this coming weekend against Clemson. Also a little bit of basketball information there. And it is just an interesting conversation as it pertains to Jermaine Couisnard and Keyshawn Bryant, and if they would stick around. I mean, look, you go to me when you say I'm going to pursue a professional basketball career. To me, that would stand to reason that I'm ready to get paid for my abilities. Now, nobody's saying that they're going to get drafted, but again, you don't get drafted in Europe. You go over and you sign a deal with somebody in Italy and Spain and Germany. I'm not being funny, in Greenland and Iceland. I mean, there's a million basketball leagues over there. But that doesn't mean you're going to make 6 figures. And as we asked, I don't know if somebody stepped up and said, hey, well, $10,000, $15,000 to come back next year. Jen, computer's working. Somebody comes back and says that, is it worth it to play one more year of college basketball? Maybe enhance your stock, maybe to get into the G League?
I mean, you would think that they have at least a general idea of what kind of money they're looking at, right? I mean, they don't necessarily they don't have agents going and talking to overseas teams right now, but don't you think they have a general ballpark idea of what they can make when they go overseas? I would assume that they're already looking at that.
I don't know. Maybe they assume that they're going to sign with the highest league possible and that they're going to make 6 figures. I don't know what's going through their head. And look, I'm not for Jermaine Cousineau. There are family concerns as well when you talk about what's going on with his mother.
So yeah, I mean, I guess
would it make more? It honestly for him would make more sense. I don't know where. I don't know the exact. I know the issue with his mother is in terms of health because it's been brought up. I'm guessing she's going to stay in Chicago for treatment and whatever she needs to do.
Yeah.
Mentally, it would make more sense for him to just transfer to DePaul for 1 year. I mean, that's the north. Maybe Northwestern. I don't know what's closer to wherever he is at home. But going to Europe, if he gets that name, image, likeness, it's just something to keep an eye on tonight as they honor him on senior night, and we go into the off season for South Carolina basketball if they can make the NIT, and then what happens with G.G. Jackson and so forth and so on. We'll continue to monitor that. 803-404-6100. Came across this audio when we were listening to John Whittle, and this is the Iowa women's basketball coach. It's about a minute and 20 seconds here. The very end is another player. Obviously, over the last few weeks, if you've kind of paid attention, Dawn Staley last week really started stumping for Aaliyah Boston, who now has 21 consecutive double-doubles. We've talked about Aaliyah Boston and maybe the fact that we locally don't talk enough about her and what she's been able to do, averaging 17 points per game and 12 rebounds this year, 16.8 points, 11.9 rebounds. Will be sweet, and we'll round up. Sunday, Iowa knocked off Michigan 104-80. Michigan's number 6 overall in the country. Iowa defeated Michigan 104-80. Caitlin Clark is the other girl that's being discussed for Player of the Year. 38 points on Sunday, 11 assists. She really has been fantastic. I'm not trying to take anything away from Caitlin Clark. But here is audio of the Iowa women's head basketball coach, Lisa Bluter. Again, I have no clue how to say her name, so we're just going to go with that. Here's what she had to say defending Caitlin Clark, and catch some of the comments about how Caitlin Clark deserves the National Player of the Year over Aaliyah Boston because of position and because of teammates. Listen to what she had to say.
No doubt that she is. And there's a lot of great players. There's a lot of great players around America, no doubt. And I'm sure their coaches feel just as strongly about them as I do about Caitlin. But Caitlin is in a situation where she has the ball in her hands all the time. And when you have the ball in their hands all the time, you can make an impact in the game. You can also mess it up. And so there's a lot of responsibility with that. And she has a direct effect on the game when she's out there. I mean, there's nobody that has, Megan was Player of the Year, but Megan didn't have to bring the ball down the floor. And Megan was awesome, But when you're a post player, you don't have the ball in your hands near as much as when you're a point guard. So point guards have a lot more responsibility, and that's why one of the reasons I think she has made more impact on our team as an individual than other people that we're talking about for this Big Ten or for the National Player of the Year. We have great people around Caitlin. We have great basketball players. We don't have 10 All-Americans, though, like some people do. And there is a difference on that. We play as a team, and we are very, very proud of that. But we don't have 10 All-Americans like other players do.
And you don't see anybody else in the country shooting logo threes, triple teams. So.
The end there is Gabby Marshall, a teammate of Caitlin Clark there. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty direct, we don't have 10 All-Americans on our team, and our girl handles the ball all the time and directly impacts the game. The post player that we may or may not be discussing this situation doesn't. I would say those are pretty direct comments toward Dawn Staley and Aaliyah Boston there.
No kidding. I'm sorry. So Aaliyah is supposed to be punished because the other team's players aren't as good as her teammates?
Yeah, Patrick, I found that interesting. I would never think in the men's game that you would hear us debating. I don't, I was trying to think back to an Anthony Davis or a Jahlil Okafor. I was trying to think of two big guys for a Kentucky or Duke where you've got two elite teams and Mike Krzyzewski or John Calipari saying, well, my guy's got 10 All-Americans around him and the other guy doesn't, or somebody coming out and saying,
that's what Kenny Pickett should have won the Heisman instead of Bryce Young because Bryce Young threw it to Jamison Williams and John Mechie. I understand her point that Caitlin Clark has the ball in her hands a lot more, but mean, also, still everything goes through Aaliyah Boston. It's very clear that Aaliyah Boston is the best player on the court, and the defense jumps through hoops to try and make sure that she can't dominate in the post, and she kicks it out and opens things up for her teammates. So it's not like Caitlin Clark's the only person that impacts the game because she brings the ball up. But
Yeah.
to make your point be, I can't recruit as well as Dawn Staley, so my player should win National Player of the Year is an interesting point.
I think the other part to this is Caitlin Clark's statistics on their own are enough to make a case for her without bringing up 10 All-Americans, without bringing up positions. Caitlin Clark's statistics are ridiculous. Like, they really are. Like, what Caitlin Clark has done, 27 she's averaged 27 points per game. She shoots 45% from the field. She averages 8 rebounds. She averages 8 assists. She leads the nation in points and assists. She extended her streak. She has 18 straight 15.5 assist games. The only Division I players, men's or women's, with longer streaks over the last 20 years, Trae Young, and one dude who just went for 52 last night in the NBA, Ja Morant. Sunday against Michigan, Caitlin Clark had her 14th double-double of the season and 23rd of her career. I point all that out because she's a great player. She's a really good player. Point out her stats. That's all I'm saying. When I say that these were, why do you point out what the other girl is doing? Why do you point out what the other team has? Because look, we know who, there's 2 girls in the discussion for this, and they're both really good players. Nobody, I wouldn't have noticed this, or nobody probably, I've seen it on Twitter from several South Carolina fans. Nobody would care if the Iowa women's coach had just said, hey, look at the stats. Look at what she's done for our team. Look at all the things she's done. There's no real need to point out, well, one team has 10 All-Americans, and that makes the other girl look a lot better, and our girl just flat out handles the ball and contributes more to the game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Matt saying the comments weren't that inflammatory. I agree. I mean, I don't think it was a shot. I think her point is just like, yeah, she has to do it without as great of a supporting cast, so more rides on her and this and that. But I don't know. I don't know why you even needed to go there. And also, I mean, she didn't put her team down really, but just being like, yeah, my team's not as good as yours. So
I looked, for those wondering, just out of curiosity, Iowa, according to Charlie Cream, the women's bracketologist for ESPN, I really had no clue where Iowa was at. He has them projected as a 4 seed in the Bridgeport regional. That would have North Carolina State as the number 1 seed. Hypothetically, in Charlie Cream's mock bracketology here, South Carolina and Iowa could meet in the Final Four, and we could get a Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston game. He's got South Carolina as the number 1 seed, the number 1 overall seed, but the number 1 seed in the Greensboro regional. Michigan would be the number 2. So just some interesting comments there. Again, it's not that I disagree with what she's saying. Caitlin Clark's really good. There's no real reason to point out that South Carolina has 10 All-Americans, and that's part of the reason that Aaliyah Boston's so good. You could have just simply pointed out Caitlin Clark's stats, and I would have said, yeah, that's pretty impressive and creates a conversation for Player of the Year.
I just think it's funny the lengths people are going to argue about it. And I mean, Chris says check out the turnover differences in the 2. What? Yeah, I mean, obviously Caitlin Clark's gonna have more turnovers, and she does have a lot of turnovers, but she does a lot of good things too. I mean, we don't really need to get on here and talk about why Caitlin Clark's not as good as Aaliyah Boston.
Fantastic player.
She's a really good player.
That was the only.
Is what it is. I saw Yuva trolling on Twitter yesterday trying to talk about Caitlin Clark's turnovers, but I mean, it's just we don't really need to go there. They're both really good, and it is what it is.
Dave, I'm with you. I think David either gets it or he's with me on this. He says, I think she's indirectly saying she is a better coach.
That's,
you know what?
Could be true.
That's
I'm
true.
doing
Yeah.
more with less. She has lost 7 games though.
I told you. It get fired up. Why not on a Tuesday morning? Fat Tuesday. We'll wrap up the program when we come back. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
South Carolina fans are funny. Just some of the Twitter battles they get into. Just
very sensitive.
very sensitive, yeah.
That's a scenario where we play that, and we're joking partially, and then honest, and then just some of it. But somebody's like, "You guys are just making stuff up," and like, we're being the home of the Gamecocks.
Yeah.
We're defending our game. We're defending our girl. We're being the home of the Gamecocks. What else do you want?
I just like that people will go to bat for their player. Iowa fans will go to bat for their player on Twitter, and South Carolina fans will take personal offense to it and say, you guys are putting Aaliyah down, and then also, in turn, start putting down Caitlin Clark. Talk about, look at her turnovers.
We finally become the home of the Gamecocks. We defend it. We defend one of our own. And now we're just being sensitive. What's kind of funny is I see Hope found the video and retweeted it, and Justin Hall refound the video and retweeted it, and both of them had comments. So the video wasn't out there. Go get them, Justin and Hope.
This is also funny. I mean, Boston's been a force for how long? 3 years. You haven't heard of Caitlin Clark because you're not an Iowa fan, but she's a sophomore, and in her freshman year, she averaged 26.6 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. It's not like she just started playing well this year. She did pretty much the same thing as a freshman as she's doing right now.
I can say this on the live stream, but I guess at some point I'll have to read over on my right what's happening on Twitter.
What's happening
inside the Los Angeles Times yesterday has an article inside the vicious feud tearing Playboy alumni apart.
What's the feud?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to, I guess, read this later.
It's interesting. Oh man, we are way out of time.
Yeah, we're done.
Well, good show, everybody. Who do we have tomorrow?
Busy day tomorrow. Debbie Antonelli to talk women's basketball.
I asked her this question during our pregame show, and she had a great answer to it.
The Caitlin Clark one?
The National Player of the Year conversation, and she had a great answer.
Okay. Brian Edwards tomorrow, and Kyle Thompson for our PGA segment.
Somebody has asked multiple times in the live stream, I can't remember who it is, but we will ask Brian Edwards about the UFC this weekend. I promise. That's my promise to you. Yeah, we're taking an extra minute and then some.
We didn't even have any lives this hour.
We're gonna have 30 seconds.
That's fine. We've done all we can do. It's been another successful program. It has been a fun show. Big thank you to Aaron Lucas. Big thank you to John Whittle. And I'll leave you with this. We opened talking about Fat Tuesday and Mardi Gras. We talked about daylight savings time. Happy birthday, Justin Bieber.
Oh, what is he, 28?
I have no idea. I don't know. We got 20 seconds to figure it out. Justin
I didn't know it
Bieber's
was Biebs' birthday.
It's the Biebs' birthday.
28, nailed it.
How about
Nailed
that?
I've been a believer for a long time.
Tomorrow morning, we're loaded. Debbie Antonelli at 7:30, Brian Edwards at 8:05, Kyle Thompson for our PGA segment. We'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow. Y'all have a great rest of the day. Good job, Jen. Anything you missed, Jen will have it on the podcast page, 107.5 The Game. Big thank you to all the live streamers. We'll talk to you tomorrow. It's been the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Man, can't believe I forgot about that.
Yeah, too much going on today. Everybody take care.
Later.